Good evening, good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. This is the this is a work session of the Assessment Board of Review for the town of South Kingstown. And just as a reminder, this is a work session. There are no, public hearings are closed. If the board feels that they need to ask a question, and there happens to be somebody representing one of the applicants, folks here, we have the right to ask a question, but we are not, there is no open public hearing or discussion between the folks in the audience and the board members. First item of business is roll call. David Bott is here. The gentleman to my left.
Brad Heavenor is present.
And the young lady to my left. Okay, we have three that are present. Ken Monroe, for the record, is not here today. First item of business is the approval of minutes from the January 21st, 2026 meeting. I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
February 10th. I know, we had...
There's two of them there.
Oh. There's two of them here?
Yes, we have less than 10 minutes.
They look a little different. I'll show you because we went through to new agenda management software, so it was in a Word document, and now it's in a different place in the cloud. The date is really, really tiny. It's not our preference, but that's just the way the software is. I'll be right over to show you.
That's the wrong one, Dave.
Wait a minute.
This is your, yep, this is the right one. February 10th. Yep.
Okay,
It's
all right.
the
Oh,
18th
yeah.
today.
Okay, all right, okay, yeah. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Okay.
We'll amend that.
Yeah.
The agendas look a lot like the minutes, so that's why it's confusing maybe
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah,
So
I-
that's our adjustment. I had the same problem because I'm like, I
Okay.
can't.
This wasn't our idea. We wanted to wait to finish the rest of this appeal season. We were overridden.
The format is attractive, but it is, when they look identical, so it's hard to distinguish.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from the February 10th, 2026 meeting of the South Kingstown Assessment Board of Review.
I would second
We
the
have a
motion.
second. Do we have any other discussion? I did look at them, and they seem to be okay. You're okay with them, Brad? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Minutes have been approved. Okay. Now we're on to our, what we did at the last meeting was we have several appeals to be discussed today in our work session. The first appeal is number 32, Dan Realty. Wendy, you have a comment about that?
I do. Through email correspondence on, bear with me.
Did you say that he had withdrawn that appeal?
I did, bear with me. Email correspondence on Friday, the 13th, saying that they're not proceeding with appealing the Gale Drive assessment value, and the other two properties, so appeal number 33 and 34, are still wanting to be decisions. So appeal number 32, the applicant withdrew their appeal.
I think the Gale Drive is 34. Is that right? So we have appraisals for 32 and 33, and we were waiting for an appraisal on 34. Is my
Yes.
understanding? Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're right.
No, that's that's okay.
So we still withdrawing 32 even though we had an appraisal for it?
No, we're withdrawing the, let me actually pull up the property here.
Number 34, is that correct?
I need a visual. Give me a minute, please. I'm sorry. I've got some. Parcel 87-2, lot 20, 117 Gale Drive, appeal number 34 is withdrawing. Appeal 32 and 33, you have the appraisals for, and they stand. There's no appraisal for 34, completely withdrawn.
Right. And so do we even have to make a decision on that one, or is that one just?
I would
gonna-
advise that you do that. You don't
Yeah.
have to. If it's withdrawn, we can put that in the minutes, but it might not be the worst idea to
Yeah.
vote to have it be clear.
Yep, and I think that was our understanding with the gentleman at the beginning, that we would wait and then decide regardless of whether new information was presented or not.
And when the appellant was here, I believe they were holding off on the appraisal due to cost, and that was still their reason. I don't know anything else other than that.
Okay, thank you. So we have appeal number 32 in front of us. Discussion or questions? Anyone?
Yeah, well, I mean, this one has an appraisal, so, I think it's worth diving into the appraisal a little bit. I mean, the big picture on this group, to me, I think this is where receiving appraisals from the appellants is useful, and even if it contradicts the opinions of of Vision and the assessor, I regard it as complementary to the information we have rather than oppositional. The assessor is looking down and trying to zoom down on the property. In these cases, these are both properties located in kind of water proximate areas. There's a big component of land value in one of them, and the other is a land parcel. And I think we've seen in these neighborhoods that sometimes land valuation can be skewed just because we know that these are areas that have seen like wide price fluctuations over the last 6 years since COVID, that kind of thing. So it makes sense that we might find some volatility and discrepancies here, especially if it's kind of a land, both of these are mostly land value because of the condition of the home, in number 33. So I think that warrants a closer look. On this one, this is home, right? So they presented, I believe, 4 comparable sales. The appraiser, this is Andolfo Appraisal Associates. It's a reputable appraisal company in Rhode Island, qualified to perform appraisals like this. The appraisal used, I believe, 4 sales that ranged from $879,000 to $1.075 million unadjusted. The property is assessed for $1.155, so kind of above the unadjusted range. And then when adjusted, the range was lowered and narrowed to about $888 to $931. They end up reconciling their opinion of value at, it's an odd number, right? It's $905,000, which I think is just kind of in the middle of the where they had adjusted the comps down to. So like the adjusted sale prices, $888,000, $916,000, $931,000, and $892. So they kind of just went towards a midpoint there. The appraisal to me it's credible. They use comparables, a couple of comparables that had water view amenities similar to the subject, and they adjusted moderately in places where there was no view amenity. So that's sales 1 and 2. I think this is the home. I mean, I don't want to. Is this the home that's also just in really kind of messy condition? That's the other thing. I mean, there's plenty of pictures in the appraisal that kind of show the issues with the condition of the home. It's rated as fair, and all the comps are kind of in superior condition. That's reflected in the assessment, too. The assessment has depreciated this down pretty heavily to the point where land value is almost, like 3/4 of the value is the site, So those are some thoughts on the appraisal. I guess maybe, I don't know if the assessors had a chance to look at the appraisal and has comments on it or a response before we kind of deliberate further.
Yes, just give me one moment. While you were speaking, I was actually just looking at the building value, the depreciation based on the condition of the home. And since we do have photos in the appraisal, that effective year built, well, originally year built is 1790, but the effective year built 1975 is the driver, the depreciation of 49%. And I was just looking just to make sure about what that means. And 1977 gets you an average. 1967 is fair, and 1962 is poor. So just something to be mindful of. if that was something you wanted to look at.
Yeah, and, I'm seeing
But
the
let me
note
look at
that
the
we.
appraisal quickly in the land while you're digesting that.
I'll just add too, and yeah, give you a second, because I wouldn't mind if you had if you had anything in the appraisal you wanted to debunk or complicate a little bit for us. I'm open to that as well. I noticed that we actually made an adjustment in 2020 to this one, so we've seen this one before, and I believe our adjustment addressed effective year built as well as grade, so we went into both grade and so we kind of double hit it to get it down to where it was at that point. But I agree. I mean, I don't think we can go lower than a 2 grade on this one. It really seems like it would be focused in the depreciation. The issue I have there would be that the land value, so they appraised the property at $905,000. We have the land values assessed at $842,000. So we could whittle the building down to 99% depreciation and barely make a dent, I think, in their assessments. That's the depreciation issue only gets us so far to kind of reconciling your opinion of value with the appraiser's opinion of value. It makes it complicated for us.
And just to comment, I don't have anything to comment about the comparables. You pretty much said what I saw.
I'll make a comment.
And we use the overall, you can't just appeal your land assessment. You
Yeah.
can't just appeal the structure or the improvement. So collectively, when I looked at this appeal, is it reasonable based on this appraisal? And we're here today because I felt that to be the case.
And sorry, Alice, I know you had something to say. I was just going to follow up quickly on that. When the vision, they come up with a value and then they allocate within the value to get land and building, right? They don't build it up from the land plus building plus garage. They say they start with the value and then they have to kind of break it down. Is it?
You got it. It's basically just a curve, but there's all these factors in the curve, and we've been dealing with this all season, right? The style, the square footage, the condition, all those things being said. And then, of course, land, especially if somebody's looking specifically at the land. This particular neighborhood is south of Route 1. I've got a chart on which neighborhood's got the largest increase. This is absolutely one that's in the mid-range of south of Route 1. And just for perspective, last reval, if you look on that landline section on the field card, the neighborhood adjustments, 2.25 for this reval. The last reval was 2.4. That's based on sales, so that neighborhood had a reduction based on sales collectively. So you'll see that regardless of the good view and the topo and all that based on location. So yes, but there's a lot of factors in that curve. And my job really during a reval is to see what's way out over here and kind of bring everything, I'm not going to go into coefficients of dispersion and all that gross talk, but
It's
you
funny
get it.
because what we get are we get all of the outlier. I feel like most of what we see here are the outlier cases, whether it's the Roy Carpenter's cottages or very high quality waterfront properties. That's what we're seeing, and that's why it's hard. We don't see the whole model and how it functions for typical properties in South Kingston. We see kind of how the model functions for heavily depreciated properties near the water, or that's our challenge. And I think just to peek a little bit ahead to 33, because that is actually there's a land valuation in 33, the next one, that maybe gives us a hint that based on the data and analysis that the applicant presented to us, they would probably contend that the land value is too high within this assessment, in addition to whether it's the building or the land, that's kind of the big picture. But we do have some data on land value in the next appraisal. I don't want to skip ahead too much, but this is one where the land is assessed for, I believe, $778,000. Did I get that right? It's a vacant parcel. Assessed for $778,000. The appraisal came in at $480,000 on that one. And I only bring that up because if we start tinkering with the first one and then flip the page to the next appraisal, we're going to be addressing the issue of land value. So that's a little bit of a dilemma, just to kind of reconcile what decision we make about 32 with what decision we make about 33, because we could depreciate 32 and try to like reconcile the appraisal with the assessment, and then flip the page to 33, and now we're like kind of messing around with the land value potentially. So that's, you know, I find the appraised value credible based on the information presented. And so I would tend to support in this one, you know, kind of pulling the assessment closer to where the appraisal is. How we get there is, you know, my question. So
Okay,
I'll let Alice speak first.
I also agree that we have to look at the value and the value of the land. I think the appraisal downplayed the view, and the picture they picked really was below the level of the dwelling. So even the town's envision appraisals, I don't know what you call this sheet, but it does say waterfront, and not waterfront, water view, excellent water view is what it says. So that there definitely is a water view down there. I'm familiar with the area, because this picture was taken from the driveway below where the house is. So I do think that there's a lot of value there because of the view.
No, and I actually, that's the one part of the appraisal that I found to be a little bit less believable.
Mm-hmm.
I think they there were two properties in the two comps that they used that didn't have the same kind of water view, which they described the water view in the appraisal as distant water view. So I think you're right, they downplayed a little bit, and their adjustment was 2.5%. So they went up, those comps were adjusted up $25,000. And that feels to me maybe a little bit light for a water view amenity. Although the properties that had similar views, there's two properties in the comp list that have a similar kind of distant water view. And those sold, they kind of sold consistent with, the other two. So, it's hard to say what impact the water view amenity had on sale price. But that's why I think, the appraisal's at 905. I think if we can move in that direction, but maybe if we acknowledge the water view, and it seems like it's being downplayed, maybe we kind of come meet somewhere in the middle, kind of thing.
Other comments? I'm going to go by the appraisal here, and I agree with what a lot of the items that you said, Brad, and also Alice. I know this area probably not as well as you do, but I believe there's a better water view there than what we're seeing on this appraisal, because I spent a lot of time down there building couple of houses. But anyway, I don't have a problem making or changing this to the appraised value here. I guess, the only question I have is, how are we going to do it? Do we have to give staff, direction as to how we're going to get to that? Or do we just say, hey, here's a number based on the appraisal and you guys figure it out?
The second part.
I like the second part myself, because I don't want us to, I don't think it's really our purview to have to look at these, these field cards here. And, I understand what's here, but if they can figure it out, I don't think we need to spend time going through all of these numbers here and figuring out, what we got to do for a depreciation or addition
Unless there was
or whatever.
something specific, like the condition of the structure, we have a tool for that, right?
Yeah.
Effective year bill. If there was a condition factor that you felt was misappropriate, then that's what we've done in the past. But absolutely, you could give us a final value, and I have ways to override
Yeah,
that.
and this is tricky for us to pinpoint anyway. So I agree with David. If we go tinkering around in there, I think the issue is this is probably an interim use. This is probably somewhere between a tear down and a gut renovation at this point. And putting a value on a property that's kind of transitioning between potential uses is hard. I don't think I want to mess around with the land value on this one, because I don't really see anything that signals to me, like within the ratings, the multipliers that were applied, that there's something wrong there, other than I know that you're kind of sweeping in a lot of land sales and applying it to a site. We'll get into that in the next one, because there's a pretty big difference between the land value opinion. So on this one, maybe I go with date. I don't know if I want to, and the other point, if we tinker around with the depreciation on this one, it's only going to produce, like, I think, minuscule results for us, and it doesn't really get us to where we might want to go.
So do we have a motion?
Do we need some sort of, the value that you're saying is the appraisal value, is that 905?
Right, that would be I think what we should do
Yeah.
is I think we should tell the assessor what our value decision.
think-
Whether it's the appraised value or whether it's something in that direction, that's going to be our discussion.
My suggestion is, we've got an appraisal in front of us. If we all agree that that number seems to be reasonable or real, I would suggest that we just say, based on the appraisal submitted, this number here of X is what we feel the value is, and proceed with a motion from that point. And let staff figure out what they got to do. That's the evidence we have. So I don't think we have to do anything else. I'm trying to keep this simple.
If you're looking to go that route, and based on the appraisal, the 905 value, we can do that. Just to give you some context, if you wanted a different tool based on these photos, if you went with a poor condition, which I don't think you'd have to, it's not too far of a stretch. There's some gray area there, and this is based on a chart, and this would be fine too. If we change the effective year built to 1962, it brings that total assessed value to $1,753,000, which isn't too far off from 905. So it's up to you. There's your window. Let you do your thing.
Yeah, the previous year was 954,200. So you're going before the...
I'm sorry, repeat that? I didn't catch that, Alice.
From the field card, previous value,
Oh, correct. That was the last reval figure was the total assessed value of 954.2.
so if we go at 905, or another 50,000 below that.
And I'm not obviously trying to, but just giving you options, okay? So this isn't I don't have any particular preference at all. But if you're worried about things that might come up during another reval, right? Because it sounds like you're aware that there is, why would you go lower than the last reval? Maybe because there is a lower neighborhood. Okay, we already talked about that. Let's say this effective year is 1962, and then between now and the next reval, there's a demo permit or something. Now it's kind of captured and that's preserved. So, but also if there's an override for the board as an assessor for the next reval, I can remove that too. So I wouldn't get too married to any particular idea. I do what I need to do based on what y'all need to do.
Are you making a motion over there, Alice?
I'm debating whether we should go with last year's appraisal, assessment, as opposed to the 905.
Just to try to build a consensus here, right? We have the clean option is just to take the appraised value kind of at face value. I think it seems like Alice is maybe a little bit uncomfortable because of that water, the
Understand.
the light water view adjustment. And then we got another bound from the assess. If we want to make just like a quick condition adjustment, I think it should be lower than the 1.075.
I agree with
And maybe it should be higher than the 905, and so maybe we can just, if we just kind of like, just to try to bring a consensus here, acknowledging that maybe the water view adjustment is a little light, going all the way to 905 reduces us down all the way back to the, the assessment from below the assessment several years ago. We could just say something like 950, just to try to like synthesize the different points of view.
When I see what things are selling for $1 million, and this one definitely is decent water view. To me, the 905 sounds a little bit light.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I agree with that.
All right, so just to, I mean, mean, I could try to make a motion if we're if we just I would make a motion at like 950. I would make a motion to reduce the assessment to 950,000 to kind of like balance out the different factors that we're kind of grappling with.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second discussion. So in this motion, so do we have to, well, we've got an appraisal here, so basically, do we have to like we should probably have just,
You have
another
made motions
findings.
due to lack of evidence. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst idea to say based on, you don't have to, but it's an option.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think we're giving significant weight to the appraisal presented. So based on the appraisal presented by the appellant, I find a value of $950,000 supportable. So that's giving weight to the assessment, but also other factors that we've discussed. If that kind of gives a better basis for the motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next appeal on the agenda is number 33, Sin Realty, Hartford Ave.
Just maybe to just to summarize what we have on this one. This is a parcel of residential land, vacant land. We received an appraisal from the same company, Andolfo Appraisal, qualified, reputable company. They presented 3 comparables. 2 were land sales in South Kingstown, one of which is a quarter mile away from the subject. And another land sale in Narragansett, down, it looks like maybe like kind of the Point Judith neighborhood, down Ocean Road, but I think far south. 2 sales had water views, and 1 sale was actually a waterfront piece of land. The raw sale prices on these were $460,000 to $585,000. They were adjusted for various factors, mostly date of sale for market conditions, also size, because one of them was a bit larger. Also, kind of site utility issues. The parcel that required a septic received an adjustment versus the parcels that had the benefit of sewer. One of the sales also had some kind of a dock amenity. In any case, they were adjusted to a range from $466,000 to $527,000, with market value reconciled at $480,000, towards the low end of the range because 2 of the comps were adjusted down to the bottom of the range. So we had a sale adjusted to $466K and another sale adjusted to $467K. The upper end of the range at $527 adjusted was actually the property in Narragansett, the larger property in Narragansett. So that was probably the least reliable sale. We have an assessment of $778,000, so there's a pretty significant spread here, which I think speaks to, as I said for the last property, some volatility when it comes to these land values in these neighborhoods south of Route 1, where we've seen like significant price fluctuations for both improved parcels and land sales where we have them. I don't imagine there was a large data set of land sales.
There were, if you look at the land use code 1310, vacant, potentially developable, there were 14 sales for year end 12/31/2024. Now, the spread was quite large. Turner Cove Way, we have that sale as the higher end of the spectrum in our appeal season this year, and there were smaller sales. There was actually 1 sale in this neighborhood on Wild Goose Road that sold for $250,000. We had it appraised higher. not by much, but yeah, they were all over the place. So we did have a pretty decent data set, but they were from the low end all the way to the high end. So there were 14 sales.
Yeah, and this is where I think that getting an appraisal is complementary to the mass appraisal work. You're kind of like capturing all the data sets and trying to zoom down, and the appraiser's starting standing on that vacant lot and then reaching out and, trying to capture what's specific to that property. So, I found this report also credible. You're balancing, you've got 3 sales. One of them is a little bit strange to me, the larger sale in Narragansett, but, you've got 2 other pretty reliable sales, including a sale on Gale Drive, right around the corner, which sold, what was the date of sale on that one? April 2024. So pretty close to the assessment date. They even adjusted for market, rising market conditions. So this one got a $20,000 adjustment upward for just those few months.
I did receive the appraisal after I decisioned it, so I probably won't speak to it at this time.
I mean, to me, again, on the field card, there's a neighborhood, the 1.95 factor. That's a neighborhood factor, right? So that's...
That condition factor is not a neighborhood factor. That's just strictly based on that site.
Right.
And if you look at the notes, there's location adjustment. It's in a flood zone, and there's some topo issues. The neighborhood, 600 to the right of that, you'll see the neighborhood adjustment, and that's the 2.25. That's specific to each reval based
Thank
on
you.
sales in that neighborhood. So I'm sure it went down because of that specific one sale that was a little bit lower. So last reval was 2.4, this one is 2.25. So the sale was taken into account.
Right, and now this one is noted to be in a flood zone, but it appears to be a buildable residential lot.
I have the parcel up on the screen if you wanted to have a visual of it.
In the topo, I think they refer to a little bit of slope.
On the left, it's what we call obliques. We can do a 360, so I'm just going to spin it around for you.
Thank you. Was there a structure on the site previously? Is that what that pile of disturbed soil is?
Not that I know, but
Maybe a
that might
rhetorical
not, I mean,
question.
if I had to do a full research, possibly, but I don't see that being, at least from the last reval, there was no structure.
I withdraw. The question was irrelevant. Now, the property we just decisioned, is that directly abutting?
It is.
If my-
It's to the left, on the right-hand screen, the property that you just decisions on the left.
Yeah, I don't know if there's many adjustments we can make here to the site. Like, it seems there's the issue of the flood zone and topo. In this case, the slope might, if you were going to design something to build there, could benefit the property potentially. I mean, it's hard to tell, but I don't see a whole lot that we can do to really bend the value towards the appraised value by messing around with the multipliers here.
I got that, but you can sort of see the slope from that angle.
I'm trying to compare the land value of this lot, which is without a dwelling, with the one next door that they also own, with the, it looks like the lot is a little bit larger, and that was at 842. I do think the current property that we're looking at is more than the 400. something that an appraisal came out with.
I mean, we say this all the time in our office, what would you sell it to us for?
Yeah, I mean, that's, we have that. Do you have the ability to pull up one of these comps?
Absolutely, whatever
So
you need.
there's the property, it's Lot 7 Gale Drive is how it's identified in the appraisal. And I kind of hone in on that one because that is, it's a sale in the assessment year in the subject neighborhood. That was given, appears to have been given significant weight in the appraisal. So that's like, of the market data that was presented, that's like the most, like, compelling to me. And I do agree, I think that there is the discrepancy between the land value and the previous one. I mean, it may be that the spread between assessed value and appraised value in the previous one lies somewhere in the assessment's land valuation methodology. There may be something in the land value. As Wendy noted, sales were probably all over the place and in there. And that's like typical for, vacant land is, to me, the hardest thing to value.
So we don't have a 7 Gale Drive,
It says Lot 7 Gale Drive. I don't know if I can. Yeah, usually if there's I'll see what else might be in the appraisal, because it would be nice to have a legal description or lot number.
I have 4 parcels on Gale Drive that do not have, maybe 5. Let me just peruse through these and see. And if we don't have an exhibit, it'll be a little tough, but
Yeah, mostly I just wanted to see is that how appropriate was that particular comparable? Does it have a similar water view amenity, topo, that kind of thing?
so out of the 5 properties on Gale Drive without a house number, it's saying sale price $460. That's all I really have here. I only have one of them sold in 2021 for $485. Land acres is .46. This is a little tricky. It gives us an MLS reference, but I don't have that on my computer. Our assessment clerk, Liz Sang, does have access to MLS. She could run downstairs and pull that up for us quickly if you want to move on to something else, an option. But otherwise, I don't think I'm very helpful right now with this one.
Yeah, that would be. I actually, not to complicate the meeting, but maybe if we could get the MLS listing pulled up just for our own verification purposes. The number 1310654. And if it can't be verified in public records, then I question whether we can rely on it. I would.
Yeah, she'll run downstairs, pull that record up, and then come back up. Do you mind making 4 copies? Thank you.
Pull it up on my phone.
Oh, well, hey. Hey, while she's running down. It's okay.
That was land on Gale Drive.
It was. When you're ready, I'll give you that MLS number. Well, how handy.
I had too many heavy things to carry to bring in my laptop today.
So that was my struggle this morning. Oof, the tech issues.
Okay. Okay, the MLS number is?
1310654. I'm pulling up Gale Drive on our GIS site now, because it does say Lot 7, so I'm going to see if I can filter it for recorded lots and get there that way.
There it is right here, there's a big picture of it. I think
No.
that's it, Alice.
No, okay.
Looks like there'd be a view from there because that's pretty, so this is right in the corner of, East Mattoon, Succotash Road and, Gale Drive. It's that first lot as you drive in.
I just pulled up my tax assessor map, and Gale Drive, there is a recorded lot or a builder lot 7, which ends up being assessor plat or assessor lot 27. Let me pull that one up and see if that one works.
For some reason, it's not coming up with that number.
This says 0 Gale Drive, so I don't think they assigned a number to it. I don't know why.
Oh, no, I was going by the
This just
MLS.
says lot 7, yeah, so that's probably the lot 7 on the platted, subdivision. This has gotta be it. It was sold for 460, right? Yeah.
All right, Liz downstairs is actually in this parcel right now, so I'm confident that I found it. All right, so that's the map.
Based on the image that Mr. Bod pulled up, it looks like it's a corner lot.
All right, so this is Assessor Map 87-2, Lot 27. Gale Drive, there it is. And this is a builder lot or recorded lot number 7. All right, so there's the parcel, 87-2, Lot 27, builder Lot 7 on Gale Drive is up there now, and I'm sure Liz is running up the MLS as we speak. I'm just going to go into the field card for this parcel as well. All right, so I have the field card up now. I don't see this a sale, but it's assessed at $490,900. The last reval, this parcel was assessed at $402,200. Thank you, Liz. Oh, she even printed out the field cards. Never mind. Well, it's up on the screen, too. This is in the same neighborhood 600. It has the same neighborhood adjustment. The condition factor is 1.25. It's lower than the 1.95 for the subject at 0.46 acres versus 0.52 for the subject.
Yeah, this is pretty sloppy work by the Realtor on this one, because they even put in for a assessor plat 87-2. They didn't identify the property. It's not that helpful to us. Also, the image on the listing doesn't seem to correspond to the GIS.
I'll have to pull this up because
yeah.
I'm worried, we don't have the sale in our ownership,
Right.
and that's very not like us.
It's also,
So I'm wondering if there was an issue with the deed. Like, I have questions.
right. I mean, it's also a little bit sloppy on the appraiser, too. They put in for data source, verification source, both MLS and public records, so it should be indicated in public records as well. Other concern here, I don't know if the picture doesn't quite seem to match up with the GIS image, and also the land area doesn't match up. So I don't know whether there's just errors or there's another site. You know, we go digging around and we hope that we get like clarity, and instead we get another like Easter egg hunt and nesting doll search.
All right, I have the parcel up now that has not one twig on it. And you're right, that is definitely not that photo.
Yeah, that the arrow seems to be pointing towards the corner lot at the corner of Gale and with the lot.
This is, well, what we have as Gale Drive, parcel
Yeah.
87-2, lot 27, which is builder lot 7, is up on that
Yeah.
screen.
All right. All right. So that doesn't help us. That just makes our job more complicated.
The sale was in '22.
Yeah, this is one where it does. It's an interesting point on the MLS sheet. The contract date is 2022, and it indicates April as a closing date. So this is like a little bit dubious information. I can't tell from the appraisal if they actually took the time to verify the sale data.
Well, it says will sell subject to buyer obtaining approvals. And that with CRMC, that's going to take a while.
Yeah, so it could be pending. It could, you know.
It's sold. Closed? No, in '24. So they agreed on the price in '22.
Right. It says it closed. Typically, that would be indicated on the field card if there was a recorded. Do we have to record sales in Rhode Island? Is the law in Rhode Island that sales are recorded by law?
I'm going to look quickly in land evidence, if you give me a minute.
All right. No, I appreciate. I feel this. I want to just solve the case. Fortunately, means that my plans for an early lunch might be fading at this point, but.
All right, I'm actually going to share the screen with land evidence up there. So searched the owner on record now, which is Steiner, S-T-E-I-N-E-R, first name is Joel. This is what's in the data system. So the last thing that was recorded here was in 2019, the deed that we have on record. So there wasn't anything recorded for that sale for the town, which is why we don't have it. And now this makes sense.
Yeah, and we
We don't know. We don't know.
And we don't
if
have the appraiser
whether
or
it
the
happened
realtor.
it didn't happen in our world because it wasn't recorded in land evidence.
All right. I think we can only really deal with the information we have, short of like trying to call Mr. Daglieri on the phone and ask him about it. So that kind of puts a little bit of a dent in one of the sales that the appraiser relied on.
If you want to look at anything else, just let me know. I'm just going to pull the subject property back up at this point.
So we got a similar scenario to the last one.
Yeah,
I guess my opinion is that I don't feel that this appraisal may be a true I guess I feel this appraisal is a little on the lower side.
agreed.
So I think my thought is that we would have to come to some reasonable valuation based on what the assessed value is and what the appraisal is, and I don't think I want to go as low as the appraisal.
I agree.
So, anyway.
I agree with that too. I think that, we have because we have the appraisal analysis, there's 3 market sales, one of which we've tried to verify and hit a dead end, but, there's other data pointing in the direction of a lower assessment that I think we can take into account. So kind of like the last one, we put a great deal of weight on the appraisal. We could kind of reconcile a value between us, a reduction that places some weight on the appraisal.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, this is, for me, it's hard as an appraiser because I don't like to just invent numbers out of thin air. But, and typically, like when I get an appraisal, I'm excited because I've got market data that kind of points me in a direction. I mean, the last assessment was at 638. Now it's currently at 778. It was a big jump, I think, because of the mass appraisal land value sales in South Kingstown. But maybe it could be a direction to go. It could be to recenter it towards the prior assessment in light of the market data presented in the appraisal.
I'm in agreement. I feel as though the value is somewhere in the 6s. How we arrive at it, I'm not sure. But
You could do something similar to what you did with the appraisal before.
I agree with everything that we're talking about here. So, yeah, I don't, that's my biggest, my biggest dilemma here is how do we come up with a value, and I know we're trying to be methodical about this, and I think we're just gonna have to just like pick a number and say, this is what we're gonna go with based on the information we have, and say, we've come to an agreement on this, and there's no, we don't have any type of mathematical formula or, based on what we've been presented here or what the field cards are, so I think we're going to be having this situation, I think, going forward with a lot more of these properties that are on our list today. So, and staff seems like they're willing to figure it out. So, if nobody wants to make a motion, I'll make a motion that we reduce right now, this valuation from the town is $778,100, correct? Correct. So I would make a motion that we reduce the value of this property to $600,000.
To me, $600,000 is pretty close to the midpoint between what the assessor's opinion of value is and what the appraiser's opinion of value is. And I think in this case, we do have the appraisal analysis, 3 land sales, of dubious quality in some cases. I would agree. at the 600,000, and I would second the chair's motion.
Other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is appeal number 34, Smalley Cynthia, and a marital trust. I believe that's one that's been withdrawn, Wendy?
Correct.
Yeah, on this one, it was suggested that they would be providing an appraisal. We kind of gave them a couple of meetings to bring that appraisal in. The appraisal's not forthcoming. No other evidence was presented at the hearing. In light of that, I would make a motion to deny the appeal.
Okay, we have discussion. We have a motion on the floor to deny the appeal based on the applicant's withdrawing the application.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is number 40, Stephen and Dana Gregory.
This is number 40. It also has an appraisal. We've kind of taken a look at this. We had the hearing, and then they came back for another, when we were going to listen to it, and they presented us another letter, which I don't know if it's another letter. No, I have a copy of the letter, but that was the original letter, sorry.
Those were all read into the record at the
We do have, no, there
previous
was another
meeting.
letter read, I do have that here. There was another letter read into the record. Just in the interest of getting the conversation going on this one, this is a recently constructed home in a neighborhood of similar, I think, newer construction. It's a neighborhood that has, kind of a shared road that all the lots are flag shaped along the to provide access. The flag shape was one point that the homeowner brought to our attention, wondering whether they were being penalized for land area within the flag, or the flag pole, so to speak. And because they're the furthest in the neighborhood, they have the longest.
I have the photo up there, just.
See there.
It looks like a good old-fashioned hockey stick lot.
So it was one point that they brought up. I believe it's a minor point, and I think we can discount it. Looked at the land assessment on this one. The assessor did what they usually do, and they kind of have a base value for the home site, and then a much lower value once it gets over 1 acre. I think there's like 1.3 acres, and so they have a kind of a marginal. So it's like a diminishing returns within the land valuation on this one. They're only assessed for like $5,000 for land area over, something like that,
Their
right?
single-family use code for their landline, and the condition factor is at 1.00. That's your basic landline curve. So that's, the increase isn't, well, there was a reval increase for your basic
Right.
land curve lot, which is captured. There, nothing in additional due to views or any reductions due to topo or anything like that. It's really strictly the structure that was newly constructed in 2024 for full value, and
Yeah.
anyone that fully constructs with a completion during the reval year,
Yeah, maybe I'll just briefly summarize the appraisal that we have, and then I think where the rubber meets the road on this one is going to be in the classification once more. I think that this is classified as custom, and we're being asked to consider the custom classification. The appraisal, I'll just say, it's imperfect because this was the appraisal done for their financing with an effective date of March 2024, so it kind of precedes the assessment date, and they did not obtain an appraisal for purposes of assessment appeal, but because it's within the year, we can consider it. It's also kind of constrained a little bit because the appraisal was provided prior to completion, final completion of the property, so the value of 1.85 million in the appraisal is before the property the landscaping was completed. I believe the appraiser estimated, I have a note in my notes for 200,000 for the landscaping, and I don't know whether that's in the appraisal or if that was something that was stated by the property owner. So just as a kind of to wrap our heads around the 1.85 million opinion of value, it would probably land closer to 2 million or 2.05, assuming completion and final installation of landscaping. That's still a pretty significant spread from the assessed value at 2.8 million. And I will say that the request that we received, so they're at 2.772, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
They have requested a reduction to 2.3. So, kind of in between the assessed value and where their appraisal landed, which is, what's being asked of us is not, from that perspective, is not unreasonable. We're not being asked to reduce it down to, whatever, 500,000 or something. Yeah. I mean, the key here is the classification, so I think we have to get into that, and it's going to be a continuing conversation, I think, with a lot of these.
This appraisal was submitted with the appeal, and the comps, I believe I actually printed out the field cards with the appraisal so you could compare, since this was more of a style-driven increase. The comps, the first comp is a ranch, the second comp's a modern contemporary, the third comp is a colonial, comp 5 is a conventional, so just be mindful.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good place to... You've done it before, but like definition of custom and yeah.
We read this
You
definition
look
7
at it.
times a week for years,
And what
every day.
Yeah, I want to look at the definition and I want to know just kind of like what the objective criteria are for the custom classification first.
All righty, custom.
And I'll belabor this a little bit for this one just because
You can as much as you need to.
we've got like dozens where this is applicable.
Okay.
And
This is a more formal residence drawn from specific architectural drawing characterized by extensive use of high-end materials and workmanship. This will also include more standard housing stock that has been extensively modified to meet an owner's specific requirements.
Can you say that last one again, please, Wendy?
I'm going to read it again. Custom. This is a more formal residence drawn from specific architectural drawing characterized by extensive use of high-end materials and workmanship. This will also include more standard housing stock that has been extensively modified to meet an owner's specific requirements. So this is where we call it like a, Jen will go out and go, we got a beefed up cake, a beefed up cape. Cape
beefed
cod.
up cake sounds delicious as well.
Yeah, we love capes. She's like, I got another one, and we're like, is it a cape or is it a custom, Cape,
Yeah.
right? So those are the only, we don't have any mid-bar for building styles. A lot of towns don't, and the discretion lies within that area, right? So I think that's secondary. This is why we are constantly regrouping on this, because it's so easy to you know, it's just a big cape. Well, is it? You know, if it's that secondary, including a more standard housing stock, right? I'm just using an example as a cape because we love capes. That has been extensively modified to meet order specific requirements. So then it becomes, well, is it a cape or is it a custom, right? And it really does have to meet a higher bar for our office. We're not just making something that's slightly modified. If you've got the building plans have been, you know, revamped, you've got a custom builder, custom architecture, and it's it's got all of those high-end materials, workmanship, and it's just special, then it gets that custom. But we talk about that till the creek rises around here, before we put a custom on something. And this is gonna be a thing from here on out.
How long has custom been a classification? Has it always been, or is it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've just seen so much more custom
Yeah.
homes being built. Almost
Yeah.
every time we get a new building permit, we're like, what's it gonna be? And it's just happening. We're not out there, we're taking the influx, not telling people to build customs. That's what's happening. And the
Yeah.
influx after COVID is massive.
Right.
Almost like all of them.
No, it's hard for us,
wild.
and I think that, yeah, to the board, it's like, because we're seeing these outlier cases, it's like, it gives us a sense that there's something kind of like warped in the model. But I don't want to give in to that suspicion fully, because I realize we're seeing special cases and not the entire data set. But it gives me concern about the model. And I think that, and what I can see happening is that, there are properties that demand a premium in our market. These are properties that, location matters, whether there's a water view, water amenity, new construction, and of course, construction quality and style comes into it. And I think that, the risk in the model, and I'm not an assessor, and we don't see the whole picture, we just see these specific cases, is places where you're adding layer upon layer upon layer. Is there a risk of kind of like either overclassification or double or triple counting in some cases? And I understand, I think what is also happening is that, like, a mass appraisal model has difficulty in our market, where we have everything from beach cottages and modest homes in villages to really the homes with the highest end material, more formal, et cetera, in waterfront locations where there's extremely high costs of construction, extremely high values, and that's what we're seeing this. The properties that have been swept up in this is what's coming before us. And I think we've got a couple buckets, too, that I've seen so far. And I think we have more. So our next meeting has a lot of these customs as well. Because I see what I see. We have both properties which seem to have been overclassified, maybe because they're newer construction. These are the cases where you've got a house across the street that's very similar, but has been put in the custom bucket rather than the colonial bucket or conventional. We've seen cases like that, where it seems like it's just kind of swept up in the dragnet while you're trying to narrow down on the highest end, I think, right? And I think that there's an element of that, of maybe some properties are being swept up or double counted. And then we're also seeing properties that are like the finest properties in our town, which have been hit with land value increases because they're waterfront or in a very nice neighborhood. They're also new construction, so there's no depreciation that's been applied. They're also getting, they're being rated as a grade of like 8 or 9 or 10 and custom, in order to get to that value. And it, the risk to the assessor's office and to us is that it seems like what it should go from is data to classification to assessed value. And sometimes it seems like it goes from value to, to classification in order to kind of reach capture that. That would be the concern that I think is coming forward.
We also had hired Vision to do some of our measures this reval season in the beginning of the year, and we did the best we could to review all of them. And that was some of the miscommunication with, they might have thought it was a conventional, or we thought it was a custom, or maybe they, so that came into play because the last reval, the custom increase was exactly the same. It was in the mid to high 50s. And we, as a board, we didn't really see them come through. So I was like, how come?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it so verbal last reval?
Yeah.
We had the similar sales. I don't know the answer
No,
to
and
that.
it seems to me like for the two buckets, though, it's like there's a really big like kind of binary leap from conventional or colonial up to custom, and sometimes it's the stuff in the middle that is like it's either here or here, and I don't even know if the grade ratings can really like give us the I don't know the complexity within those buckets. I mean, all of this is to say, it's like, I don't know, like David mentioned earlier, it's like we can't get in there and tinker with the model, or, and I can't even suggest that the model's incorrect broadly, because we're only seeing a few dozen of the most extreme cases. So I don't want to overstate any concern. I just, like, I can see what's happening. And we're getting both, too, so it's kind of hard for us. We're getting properties that are clearly custom by that definition, as well as some that are in between. This one is kind of in between for me, just to bring it back to the subject here. It's a little bit in between. Like, I don't know if it's the finest materials and most formal, but it is definitely above builder spec, so... But we've seen properties that probably cost a lot more to build on a per square foot basis classified as custom than this one. So, I wonder, I apologize for talking so much too, guys. I just wonder maybe the solution for us, or a potential solution for us in these cases, because we know once a property is put in the custom bucket, your base unit cost is now $500-600 a square foot or even higher, depending on grade. And so I think in these cases, it might make sense for us to look very careful, for us as a board to look really carefully at, like, if it's going to stay in custom, do we take a closer look at the grade rating? Because if you do custom and then give it an 8 grade or a 9 grade, you're really pushing it, to the top of the market, because the base cost is already so high. I mean, the difference between custom and conventional colonial is pretty vast, I think, and we don't have anything in between. There's not like decent custom or really nice colonial. We don't have that extra.
This is why and you're on the right track as far as the next tool. Let's say Jen and I are looking at a home. We've decided it's a custom builder, the blueprints are custom, we see the materials, we've done the site visit, we're like, oh man, it's a custom, no. All right, so we've designated a custom, and then it's, okay, well, what is the grade, right? So to do the research on the materials, and I'll be honest, as an assessor coming into town, I looked at every single custom for this reval. We printed out every single field card. I touched every single one with Jen, and we were like, is this a custom? Now, it's not a full reval, so I didn't go through, are all colonials, or all, that's just not, we don't have the time or space or to do that. The next opportunity is a full reval. Now, the challenge with our office and the board is that last reval was during COVID, the full, so I'm not going to be able to address that grade issue truly until we can do inspections, because there's some custom 5s on the book, and I'll tell you, if that came through now, it would be a custom 8, 9, 10.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
Right, and I think for us, we can can only deal with what pops up in front of us, and do the best we can. But it's tough because we have like one eye is kind of covered. We don't have access to how everything looks. We only see what's in front of us. So it's tough for us to make decisions on some of these cases because we don't see, this is a custom 8, you know? And is this typical for a custom 8, or maybe this is a custom 6 or custom 7? I don't, like, that's what's hard for us to judge here. Or is this a colonial 10, or, you know, like that kind of thing? Like, we have, so anyway, I just like to kind of bring it back to the conversation on this one.
And we
Just maybe
field
briefly,
visits,
like, we
just
have
so
the
you know.
picture of it, like, or I have a picture of it. Like, what was it that brought it to the custom? Was it the architectural plans? Was it the complex roof line? Was it the material? Give me a sense of that.
Well, I start with the building plans,
Yeah.
right? I start with the permit that's pulled, right? So he pulled the permit in 2022 for $1 million. That's the permit, right, to build it. Doesn't include anything else, just the building, as you know. No mechanicals, no electrical, none of that. Then I pull the plans out and I look at who drew the plans, like, because you know, you can buy plans online and you just have someone stamp them, or are these plans that are drawn for the specific needs of this client? That's where I start. Then I go to the job site, and then I look at roof lines, right? Like I try to figure out, you know, does it fall in the bucket of a cape? Does it fall in the bucket of a conventional or a ranch? Then that's the next step. Then I try to talk to the builders when I'm there, you know, and and I look at the materials being used, and I look at the interior when I can. The problem with a lot of this too is I can't get inside a lot of these houses because no one wants to let me in. But you know, when you look at the the materials on the inside, the workmanship, you use a judge of like neighborhoods that we've recently done, like Vespia, you know, a big neighborhood where the builder has come in and done, you know, a lot of houses. Like you have to kind of compare what's out there to what's being built. So I take all those things into consideration. Workmanship, materials is big. You know, are you getting, you know, is it a low-end vinyl-sided house or is it clapboard? You know, is it, 3-inch clapboard? Is it, 6-inch clapboard? Like, you know, these materials are more expensive. Is it hardy board versus vinyl? You know, those are all things that play into this, grading. That's what I do. Yeah, higher end windows. Is it triple pane, you know? Are they windows that are, that tilt in, tilt out, like all the...
We call it fenestration. I just want to say that word.
I mean, it has a subjectivity to it, but I try to treat every single home under the same, with the tools that we're given, the descriptors we're given, that's where I go. And to be honest, these descriptors probably haven't been upgraded in 20 years. So,
yeah, because some of in the description, there's words like more formal and,
Right.
Specific use or high end that to me are like
very vague.
potentially subjective, right? So
Correct.
that's also, I think, a struggle for folks to try to
100%.
understand. But I mean, I think the other thing for us to look at too is like, because it's come up in other appeals, like, are these being applied uniformly? And for the, in many cases, based on the other properties that you provide, you've shown us other similar properties that are also being classified as custom. So in many cases, there seems to be a uniformity across properties. And the cases where we've made decisions are places, I think, where the board sees, issues with kind of lack of uniformity between. There was like the recent case where we did change the classification because it looked very similar to what was across the street, essentially. Like that was our judgment.
Right, and which was reasonable. I mean, are the other classifications wrong in
Yeah.
certain neighborhoods? Like Wendy said, we can't address those issues to
Right, and
the,
yeah.
So you have to do what you have to do. You
And
know
that's
what I
the
mean?
issue for us with the case that is made for disproportionality is hard because
Correct.
like we've got just a pile of properties with different shapes, sizes, year built, and there's discrepancies between them. But it's impossible for us as a board to reconcile the discrepancies because we have nothing. It's not grounded in. I mean, this is where when we have an appraisal. We at least have some grounding in the market that gives us a hint that, like in this case, if the appraisal was kind of in the low $2 million and the assessment's in the upper $2 million, that's a hint that somewhere in the classification or grade rating or something, there might be something askew. That,
Or just a different
points in that
perspective.
direction. But without that, if it's just, pulling a bunch of, assessment comparables, it's harder for us to like pin down.
This isn't just like the custom classification issue. This is kind of a broad example, and I'll give you last season with the last reval, the cottages, right? You have a moment in time where you're living in half of this old charm world, and then this new world, but they're in one spot, right? So you've got cottages that really are just sheds, and then you have some that have heat. You could live there in the winter if they didn't have a lease that said you couldn't, and they're bummed. So it's kind of the same. We're in this changing of things right now, and it's not just the cottage. It's kind of everything collectively in the town, because everyone knows we're on the map now, so you've got the sales too to prove it, and that's what happened at Roy's. Like, why are these selling for $450, right? Their value, we already went through all of this with that. Like, just an example, but it correlates to this custom issue, because you've got some on the books from the old, materials are, in the last 10 to, you're a builder,
Yeah.
Mr. Bahad, right? The last 5 years, just 6 years since I've been in this office, I'm like, wow, what is that? I mean, just, it's wild. So the world is changing, it's technology, it's all of that no one has control over, but we're trying to manage that shift.
And I think that's like, because based on the cases we've heard so far, it's like, oh, is custom applied only to new construction, or is it that the new homes that are being built in our community, many of them are architect designed, and therefore
We don't wanna put them
or because I'm like, are there built properties that were built in the '60s that have a custom classification? We're just, the thing is, I
Sure
think
there are, we saw 'em.
we're not seeing as many of those, because I think what's coming before us is people that have been hit with the price of new, the cost issue, because there's no depreciation applied. So we have a high cost of construction is one hit, and then they're in the custom bucket is another hit, and they're probably located, if they're south of Route 1, they've got this land value issue.
You
which is
called
hard
it,
to-
and
So-
those are your outliers that are
Yeah.
on this appeal
So they're
season.
seeing a big jump, and
Others are not,
and I think
you're not
that,
going to see
this-
them.
Yeah, this particular case might be one that is experiencing that. Anyway, I can kind of digress from my interrogation of the assessor on this, but I mean, it kind of matters, and it's more for you and for Vision to like kind of smooth out this,
And we're in the
but-
process of doing that now, again, another example, we'll use the cottages, way back, I don't want to say 2018 or something, like, well, we saw some weird codes, we're like, well, what's camp style? What are we charging for, like, campsites? Like, what's going on here? That was a defunct style, right? And then it went to cottage, and then then there was seasonal, we're like, well, what's the difference between a seasonal and a cottage? So now we're cleaning them up, and they're really we just have cottages now.
Yeah.
And they may or may not have heat, and then you'll see that in the assessment, because things are just different. So that's some of and that took at least 2 revals, and we have one more to go to really like be kind of,
Yeah.
so that's
No,
what's going on with this.
Thank you for this, and this actually helps me understand kind of like what's going on with these a little bit better.
Fully aware leading up, we have one more statistical in 2020.
And I don't think we just never had the case where the customs are. I think that base cost is now like that was a big jump. That was supported. I mean, that's their sale data underneath that, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's-
We could have gone back 2 years. We had 6 sales. I didn't feel the need to do that. We had enough for the data set for the year, and they were all south of Route 1. So we really looked at the customs north of Route 1, because they are not here today because we went through them and we had to deal with some of that market adjustment. But
Right.
south of Route 1 was preserved.
Right, and that's what happens sometimes if you have, like we see with one land sale at $3 million. Now, even among 14 other land sales can like affect land values in neighborhoods where there's one outlier sale, and yeah, exactly, neighborhoods that have seen big jumps in value. I mean, all of this is how we've all seen this, witnessed this over the last, since COVID, over the last 6 years. We know the property types and the places where we've seen big jumps in sale prices, and also a lot of new construction activity. So, yeah. Sorry, guys. I guess apologize for belaboring it, but this is more to get out of my system, this issue of custom, so I'll try to spare my
We do this every
repetitive
week,
comments
so
for-
this is nothing, just
for future, because this is,
whatever gets you there, because
Yeah. yeah. So I feel good there, and anyway, so,
I mean, I'm looking at the big picture here, you know, and I see what the appraisal is, and I see what the applicant's asking for, and you know, when I just look at this from 30,000 feet, I can't really disagree with what they're asking for, so I would support either that number that they're asking to reduce the valuation to, or something right around that. So, that's all I
no,
have
I
to say.
think, based on the appraisal, I think we have good reason to go there. I think sometimes what's hard to capture in appraisal is new construction and custom new construction, especially if you've got comparables that are 10 or 20 years old. So, sometimes they try to capture that, but I do think we have good reason to move. With the appraisal is essentially at $2 million and change. The applicant's asking for $2.3 million. We have reason to move in that direction. Just like, as an exercise, just for my own edification, if we made a change to the grade on this one, would that have any impact? Like, it's at 2.7, and if we're thinking 2.3, if the grade went down to a 6, would that even, it's hard for me to grasp how
I'm going in now, right now it's a grade 8, so let's go in there.
yeah, I'm just skeptical, because I think that custom is the issue.
We are going to be looking at all of the grades for the full reval.
Yeah. No, I think that the grade probably becomes important when you move from one bucket up to the next level.
All right, so right now, everything being said at 2.772. If we change it from a good 20 to a good plus 10, which is a 7, that gets you to a value of 2,562,8.
Mm-hmm.
And a 6 is good, and that gets you to 2.3, $2,381,400.
Yeah, and this is,
And like you said, every reval's another looky,
Yeah.
so you don't have to be married to anything forever for 100 years. That's not the purpose of the revals.
I think for customs like this, it might make sense. If it's already getting the custom classification, just be wary, so the only question, I guess, you guys see more, if you look at this, would you say 6, or, I don't want to start inputting, have us change grades.
If you want our preference or mine as an assessor, I'd rather you change the grade than the style, but that's why we're
Yeah.
here today. But if they're saying it's not that,
Listen,
you
there's
have to
some
listen to the
cases where
appellant.
we're gonna change the style on some of these.
You
but-
clearly have. I mean, if you want my preference, because I'm
but
going to
this is,
look at
to
the
me,
style and the grades,
I
but
can get comfortable with this as custom. I can get comfortable with that as custom.
I
but
think there's
feel
more
like it's-
discretion in
Yeah.
the grade, right? Like, you could
Okay.
have the same what is this, shingles? You could have the same shingles on a house right across the street on High Street, right? Like, so, is that a 3? Is that a 5? Is that a 10? You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
discretion in the grade.
Because I think it's getting a little bit double hit. Maybe
If you agree that it's a custom and you need a tool,
Yeah, custom
there you go.
seems to include quality to me, and that's where we also have grade is to me also quality, and so I would moderate that. I mean, so if going down to a 6th grade gets us to 2.3 and change, we can either do that, or we can kind of just give you a number.
I hear what you're saying, Brad. I guess my take on this is that we just come up with a number. That's kind of what we've been doing. So, and then staff will make the adjustments and.
Whatever works for the
I like
board.
that. I like that
works
just
for us.
because, there's some cases where it's obvious for us to go in and make a change when there's a discrepancy, and there's some cases where we really have no business going in there and tinkering. So, I'm amenable to that, and that gets us just mentally towards that good grade custom home.
And like you've said, it's votes based on an appraisal, so that gets you there. We
Yeah.
make note of it, and then everything else is still preserved, and it's another reval.
Yeah,
It's
you
assessor
guys
discretion
comes back out in the wash.
no matter what it is
Yeah.
that's happening, to be honest.
Great. So,
I agree with change in the grade. When I look at the photographs here, the photographs don't look like a grade 8, 10, or 20. even though it's a new construction. So that, I think the grade is where the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, that
Point
gives
well
us a good,
taken, Alice.
gives us a good basis. I mean, what I might do then is still make a motion along the lines of where David is, make the motion for 2.3, and we can understand kind of our underlying basis is the appraisal and our, you know, and the grade quality issues that we're observing. So, and we can leave it then to the appraiser's office over time to, you know, make adjustments.
So is that your motion,
Yes,
Brad?
I would. My motion is to you know, based on the appraisal and, you know, the discussions that we've had here, we could bring it to. I would say we'll do. We would change the assessment to 2.35 million, which is actually that reconciles with close to where that grade change would be, and also the applicant's opinion of value based on their appraisal. So my motion is to bring it to 2.35 million based on those factors.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next item is 53. That's that lot TCW and Turner Cove.
We are moving him to the next agenda.
Okay.
I believe March.
So
That's the one that Ken
March
Monroe's very
10th, he's
familiar
already,
with.
yes, correct, you got it.
So I
I was
would-
like, why did we do that? Mr. Monroe needed to be present for that decision, so you can go ahead and just make a motion to continue to March 10th. He's already on our draft agenda. for
exactly.
old business.
My motion would be to continue this to the next meeting?
March 10th.
To the March 10th
March 10th,
meeting.
okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none of those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is number 84, Stephen and Karen Pinch. As previously discussed, I did recuse myself from this item. And just one other quick question on this, Wendy. So 2 meetings ago, I did recuse myself, and we had that paperwork all submitted. In the last meeting, I recused myself, but we didn't submit any paperwork.
You only have to submit it once for
Okay.
that case, and the Ethics Commission's already received
So-
it, so it's on file. You're able to fulfill your role as a chair and administer the meeting, and then just be absent of the discussion between Brad and Alice.
Good, I'm glad only one time is acceptable. Okay, so I will run the meeting, and I will recuse myself from this particular item, or this appeal.
All right, so it's going to be a little more of me talking again. All right, it's just you and me, Alice.
Okay. I agree with their assessment of problems with the flooding, with long and narrow, and their use of the land. I feel these are big factors in the value of the land.
Yeah, and I think the other land factor there is for us to try see if we can resolve is that they have a very long and narrow site, so their water frontage is actually less than some of the other sites in the neighborhood. So I think that on that basis, they've got the question of land. We should kind of look into the land portion of the assessment. The maybe question for the acting assessor is like, there were issues. I mean, before we get into the real meat of it, there were questions about the building sketch data. There were discrepancies, I think, in right. So the question was just kind of like the classification of the lower level, questions over the property card having different information about like roof cover, et cetera. You know, have those issues been resolved so we can just kind of focus on the land issues and on the building issues?
We're going to
classification.
share this big file briefly, just bear with us, Brad. So, we did, I'm just trying to find our stuff here. Okay, here we go. There's my little assessor pile. All right, we got, you should in your packet have the building plans, the
Yeah.
permits that were pulled, the aerial view from Eagle View printed, which is also up on the screen. And I'm trying to find the original letter here. So there was an abatement that we issued back in November from the original appeal. We abated $765.26 due to a square footage reduction from 3,055 to 2,700. So the initial issue, I believe, there was a couple of issues, but the square footage value change, we changed, Jen, what's STG, storage? I don't know them all by heart, Jen does. We changed the storage to UBM, which is unfinished basement. We changed BAS basement to FBM, which is finished basement. And then there were 2 wood decks that we changed to FOPs. So that was the collective value change. All of those minor changes resulted in a total value change of $85,000 times our tax rate, which was the abatement. Just keep in mind that it was a little tricky for us to do the math because for year-end 12/31/2024, this was 70% complete. So the value at that time was $2,085,300 for year-end '25. For this year that we're still, working on certifying our roll, it'll be at 100%. So I took the difference at full value minus what it would have been at full value, and that was the value change, the $85,000 for the abatement. So those have been resolved.
Great. So just to really narrow it down, I think we look at the land issues, small, narrow lot, elevation and flood issues, and just make sure it's kind of, it's been accounted for uniformly compared to other properties in the neighborhood. And then the other question we can get into, I think this is one where we have building classification, simply because there is one property in their neighborhood which to me looks very similar, which is the property in Quagnut, 6 Quagnut, which I believe has a different style classification. But maybe we do the land first.
I believe so too. Just let me know what you want to pull up if you want
Can we
to pull up 6 Quagnut and just
no?
kind
But
of.
can we do the land first? Maybe
Yeah,
a little bit.
whatever, you tell me. Yep.
Land's it's a little tricky, but their point is well taken. I think just given the shape of their site, and yeah, they have the
So they have a condition factor of 4.0. The highest is 5.0, and those are usually more like Charlestown Beach Road properties, just to give you a
Yes.
perspective of oceanfront. There is a note that this is waterfront.
Yes.
So that's the condition factor. And the neighborhood is 400, so that's south of Route 1, but they have one of the smaller adjustments based on sales. So like that previous, Gale had a 2.25 neighborhood adjustment. This one's at a 1.45 based on that particular neighborhood. So just to break down that
Right.
landline value for
So I think
you.
we're just looking at the condition adjustment really, and
If you want to tell me what you think you want it to be, we can
yeah,
do some calculating.
they've identified. I mean, it's tricky because they mentioned the neighboring property, lot 184, which is hard because that's like so it's like twice the size and has twice the water frontage, but you get into economies of scale. So I'd rather look at properties that are similar size and similar shape. For comparison, they noted a couple of properties in their neighborhood that have condition reductions. They have lot 53 is at, it looks like 3.75. I don't have all of the data at my fingertips. I'm just going off of what they presented.
There's quite a bit of comps, but if you want, I can bring it up and we can look at that.
Maybe, could we do, with the GIS, can you select a property? Is that,
We can select a property on
Yeah.
GIS. Yep, so let me get in there.
because I see one, you know, they're at 4.0, is that right? Okay.
All right, there we go. So there's the subject up, and depending on what parcel you'd like to compare it
Yeah.
to, we can,
I have
see how
one
I
in-
click on it, and it'll just, we can just
I have
go
one in
from there.
particular that it's just, to me, it's a similar shape, and it's,
Are you looking, I'm sorry to interrupt you, are you looking at the, right after the appeal, there's a land issue, and there, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm
I'm
on
on the
that
same
map.
page, just making sure.
I don't know if you can grab number 19.
Oh, we can grab it.
It's long and narrow, similar to there. It's not identical, but I'd rather not look at the ones that have like 3 times as much water frontage.
Yeah, just to give you perspective, so I'm going to click on.
That's the
it's-
one.
They've got it as 19, but it's map 64-4 lot 7, which is 19 Quagnut, I believe. Oh, that wasn't on.
I see. So these numbers I'm seeing are probably street numbers. I got it. Okay.
All right, so the land value is 954,400, and the acreage is .31.
This is one where I also keep struggling to find the field card for the subject. Is it true that they're at 3.95? Is that?
They are at a total assessed value, oh, I'm sorry, are you asking for condition factor?
Yeah, condition factor. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all
And
good.
that's where we make our change. If
So
we,
I don't think the condition factors on GIS, let me just cross-reference that in my CAMA software, just bear with me. All right, that property is a condition factor of 4.0.
okay. How about their neighbor at 194 Quagna? No, 194 Winchester.
194 Winchester. All right, so that's their butter.
It's not a dissimilar shape, although there's more water frontage.
Agree.
I don't know how the utility of that. Just trying to get at like what typical condition adjustments are applied in the neighborhood.
This is 3.9 for condition factor. I'm actually going to look to see if there is a reduction. Just going to go on the field card and see if there's any notes. I actually have the field card up for 194 Winchester now, up on the screen.
Yeah, the note says access, which
Yeah, I don't see any
doesn't.
notes for anything that was reduced in the past. So yeah, you've got a condition factor 3.9 with water, and the notes say waterfront access.
Right, it's a little bit of an irregular
Mm-hmm.
site, and then I guess maybe just their other abutter on
Mm-hmm.
the other side, 184, which is probably 4 like them, I'm guessing, but we know based on their.
This one here, Brad?
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it's not a great land comp just because of the width, but if we're just looking at the condition factor.
Sure.
What I've noticed is with Envision, you can if you click print for field card, it pops up the field cards.
Does it?
It's nice. I can do it from home rather than having to
Can I
come
do
in.
it
and-
here too? 'Cause- 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 I always got to take the long way home, so I'm going on, here's the Wendy Way. We got it up there now. 184 Winchester is up there now. So the landline, this is a 4.0 condition factor,
Yeah.
same notes as the subject waterfront.
Yeah, I mean, Alice, what do you, like, I think based on what they presented, the impact of the King Tide events, the elevation of their site in comparison to this one, which is less impacted by the tidal events, I think also some of the conditions that were placed on the use of the site by CRMC, also the narrow width of the lot would warrant some kind of reduction. Question is, I mean, do we go to kind of like the low end of the neighborhood at like 3.9 is a very marginal adjustment. I don't think it's going to make a major reduction, or do we go a little bit lower?
All right, I'm in their card now, so if you'd like to tell me, you know, where you want to go with it, we can do that.
Which number is that on Winchester? The number on Winchester?
Gotcha.
No, the one we were trying to compare with. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Alice, what was that? You'd like to see 184?
I
Here's
think that's what we were looking at.
194, and here's 184. Here's that landline. So I'm sorry, let me back up. 184 Winchester is a condition factor 4.0, and 194 Winchester is a condition factor 3.9. If you wanted a comparison, change,
It's like, I don't think I have the subject in my folder.
I don't know for this particular parcel if I can give you what it's going to be with the condition factor.
Oh my God, Liz,
There's
great.
something going on in this parcel right now. I don't know why.
Subject, this one. Thank you.
Wait, I got a parcel audit. What? I have to call Vision. I'm not sure why, but the total assessed value is not what we have it at for year end. And I don't see any overrides or an audit, so I actually have to call Vision and work out a ticket with this particular parcel, so I can't.
This is for,
This is for the subject,
the subject?
188 Winchester. I don't know why. This makes no sense. I had another ticket yesterday. I'm not. There's something else, so we'll just add this to the list.
so if we, yeah.
All right, we figured it out. Someone was tinkering.
Thank you.
We untinkered it
Oh, thank
in the
goodness.
workshop, and I'm Santa. All right, so let's go back to what we were doing there. I apologize. No, it's all good.
I guess, yeah. I
I
mean,
was like, never know. Like, who comes into my computer at midnight? What's going on? All right, so if we were to go into the landline and change that from 4.0 to 3.9. Yeah, that is a very minor reduction.
Yeah, I mean,
Just give me 2 seconds.
to me, this is still maybe, I mean, the real meat and potatoes on this one is going to be the building anyway, but we're kind of taking it one piece at a time.
$23,400 for the .1 reduction of assessed value.
Okay. What I might do then, so our basis for going from 4 to 3.9 is just like kind of comparing it to other reductions made in the neighborhood, which seems appropriate. Maybe we just turn towards the building now, or I don't know how you feel about the 3.9 versus the 4. Yeah, I mean, it's a modest adjustment, but maybe let's take a look at the building just so we get like the big picture. And on this one, I think that the issue is that they've raised, I think, a compelling point about the property that was at 6 Quagnut, which is also new construction. In the photographs, they look very similar. They have a similar style. They're also both new construction.
Bedrooms and baths the same?
No, actually,
No.
the subject has fewer bedrooms and fewer baths, I believe.
I have 6 Quagnut up, the field card here.
Yeah. Do you have a picture? Is there a
So-
picture of it, or is that?
No, unfortunately, no.
Okay, that's fine. I just
I
thought,
believe that is the structure that they've provided you here,
yeah,
6
like
Quagnut.
for dramatic effect,
Yeah, here's a picture of flag.
yeah, it's like a 3-story.
Actually, there we are.
Yeah.
Ta-da.
It's not dissimilar to the subject in style. If this is really just a style component.
Yeah,
The one big difference
there's
here is this one is
conventional.
not waterfront. This one is an interior site, which makes me wonder whether custom is being used to capture things other than style. But they are grade 6. The subject is also rated grade 6, so they're consistent in terms of quality. My question would be, what does the assessment look like if you brought this in to be consistent with the style of Quagnut, which is conventional, style 6?
Would you like me to leave the landline at 3.9 when I go in and change?
For now,
the-
leave it at 3.9,
Okay.
and then we'll just kind of get a big
All right.
picture.
All right, so 3.9 on the landline.
What's the difference between 3.9 and 3.5 or 3?
Well, only because I'm in there right now, I'll answer that question for
Yeah,
you.
no, it's
Okay,
good, it's a
so
good-
the difference between the 4.0 and the 3.9 was a value of 23,400. If you were to go to 3.5 on the landline,
The 3, whether it's 5 or 9 or just 3, is the severity of the problems with the land.
It's a good question.
all right, that value is 116,800.
That's the delta.
That's the delta, yeah. Actually, if you divide that by 5, if you wanted to get a increment, it comes out to 23,360. I had 23,400. That's just the way the tables hit. So
Yep.
you're averaging per point a value at 23,400. So you would see a reduction of 116,800. Let me go back and change it to the 3.9, all things considering, as it sounds like that's happening. So
Yeah, this is
3.9 on the
where-
landline, and then the construction change from custom to conventional will bring the total assessed value down to 1.851600, leaving the grade at a good and everything else being said.
So that brings the building,
The total assessed value. I am getting a new laptop, it's in the works, and then I'll
Oh,
be
that's
able
okay.
to
I
do a
just-
little
so that's-
Control
what's that?
F5 and
That-
see a future field card, but I can't do that right now with this laptop, unfortunately.
That would result almost in what, a $500,000 or $600,000 reduction in the building value, which is like, tough one. I mean, just for the record, what's compelling here is just that there's another home in the neighborhood that is to me very similar. Like like objectively.
It's
similar in style.
624,000 of value.
And
I agree that it looks very close in style to Quagna.
yeah. So, I mean, that's basically it. I think that I would be conservative, a little bit conservative on the land, only because, you know, we have it's the same neighborhood with this, there's a row of waterfront properties. Probably a lot of the value is in the waterfront nature, the waterfront characteristic. So the impact of some of these other factors, to me, are of a smaller magnitude. If we reduce it to 3.5, like, what I could see happening is that then that kind of throws the neighbor, like, then it will set off a cascading, effect in the neighborhood where we'll get more appeals because they're a 3.5 and they're a 4. I would just hesitate to go too extreme on the land, but I think we can make some adjustment in acknowledgement of elevation, flood, shape, and shape, size, and water frontage. To me, 3.5 is just like kind of inviting more inconsistencies and inequities in the neighborhood. But maybe something like 3.75, just given that what they presented to us, I think the photos and the impact, it seems very real. I don't know how you feel about that. But there's going to be already a big impact, because the other thing I would support in this case is a change to the conventional style, which is a massive shift. So, but I don't know where you're at with the land. If we can settle the land piece first, if you're okay with, like.
Well, as I'm reading, in the same neighborhood, same waterfront, size of the lot seems to make a big difference. A number of lots that are larger than theirs are valued less. And on top of that, every time they have a king tide,
Yeah,
they're going to say, oops, we're going to have water in our yard,
yeah.
which I don't think is true of all of the lots.
Yeah.
So the 3.5, 3.9 is what, the neighborhood?
That's a site-specific adjustment. So the ones at 4.00 probably don't have a site-specific adjustment. That one at 3.9 may have, I'd have to dig in a basement for about a week to find out, probably a month, actually. We don't know. We don't know.
At least for this one, if we make a change, we know why there's a change, so that if this comes
Moving
up
forward, we
again in
have
the
notes
future.
on everything.
Just from the size of the lot, in fairness, with neighboring lots that are larger, that are valued less. I don't know how you do the adjustment on
Now,
that.
valued less on a per square foot basis or valued
Yes.
less on a gross basis? I mean, that's,
You would use the condition factor. That's
Yeah.
the only tool for the landline specific.
yeah, that's fine. I think that, that's especially for,
And they
High
have
value land?
provided evidence, and we make sure we put it in the notes, when someone pulls up the field card, if they're doing comps, like why that would be the
Yeah.
case. We'll make sure it's public.
yeah, that's where the flood, the kind of the king tide flooding, the flood events is impactful. I think that there's like an economy of scale to lot values where each additional square footage, especially if it's not a waterfront square foot, is going to be worth less.
That is correct. I think I should say it for the record, just in case this comes up this cycle or ever. Every reval, there's a prime site land curve, and that's your 1 acre site, and that changes every reval. So if you have a full acre or 43,560 square feet, that land curve, this doesn't apply waterfront or any of those other condition factors. You're just talking like a base 1.0 condition. Your landline value is 217,360. Now, if you have 1,000 square foot economies of scale, it's going to be 119,890. So there's breaking points, and have had to explain this to people
Yeah.
constantly, where they're like, well, I only have a 4,000 square foot lot, and I'm at like 150, and they've got a whole acre, and they're at 217. That's exactly what you're saying. It's the economies of scale. Your prime site is your main value, and the same goes with the building tables for the structure too. If you're going to look at the field card and look at
Each
the
additional
building
square
sub
foot is-
area,
yeah.
a lot of people think, well, it's smaller, so therefore it's less. As a builder, that's not the case. You're going to get more discounted the bigger, the more materials, right? So there is an economy of scale. It's built
Yeah.
in.
David
The
Bob's
re-
already on the site. He can build us a mud room,
Yeah,
draw on
yeah,
another
like, keep going,
bathroom,
right?
and
Like,
you're
what a
already there,
deal.
right? You've got your tools and you got
Exactly,
your equipment. So
because
just
a shed's probably going to be more
order
of
a
a
little
pain to
extra
build
lumber
than a
and
custom.
give it-
So
yeah.
so that just so everyone knows
I'm
that
just
that's a
sensitive to
thing,
that.
and it confuses people all of the time. They think less is, it's not less. Unfortunately, is more in this.
I think because when it's
world.
broken down on a per square foot basis, it's tough, especially for waterfront, because like the first 10,000 square feet of a waterfront parcel is like, that's where the most, because that gets your foot in the door, and then the next 10,000 square feet is just worth less, because you already have a waterfront, so you find the bigger and bigger the lot gets, there's just a quick diminishing returns once you have your waterfront site, so that's why you just see these price per square foot discrepancies between a 10,000 square foot lot and a 20,000 square foot lot. I think that especially for waterfront land, it's really sensitive to it. But yeah, I mean, I think we have basis though to reduce that factor down, and I'm open to going down in the threes on that one. Are you comfortable? Would you be comfortable at 3.75, which would be some $40,000 reduction? I'll also note that they purchased the property for $1.2 million in 2023. So if we bring the land value down lower than $900,000, we're kind of pulling it further away from a transaction. Even though I acknowledge that some of these site factors may have come up since the date of sale. And obviously, there's other factors because they built a home on the site.
A 0.25 reduction, so if you were to bring the condition factor on the landline to 3.75 from 4.0, and then also with the conventional classification, the total assessed value is $1,816,600.
That seems to compare.
And then Quagnot was
More favorable with
1.226,100, just for comparison. I've got that card up there.
Right, and essentially the difference there is going to be the land value. That's so it aligns the building values reasonably close to the most similar recent construction in the neighborhood. So I'm ready to make a motion if you feel we can discuss. But so that would be my motion would be to make that change, applying the 0.25 reduction in the site condition factor, as well as the change from custom to conventional, based on the information and evidence provided by the appellants.
We have motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
No?
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
For the record, I did not vote on this particular item.
Noted.
Next item on the agenda is number 60. Savage.
That's Appeal 89, Bookbinder
Excuse me.
Bruce.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Nice
Bookbinder,
try.
Yeah, Bookbinder, number 89. Sorry about that. This is another one where we've got a, I was looking at this while you folks were chatting about the other property, but we've got the same scenario here. We got a fairly good-sized house on a piece of property that's down by the water. Again, I've already kind of stated my concerns earlier. We have to do something here, and how we're going to get there, I guess we'll figure it out.
I believe this is actively on the market, if I'm not mistaken. I have the MLS active listing, so I'll send that down, and then the transaction.
Okay, thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. It's current listing at 5.997 million. It's currently assessed for 4.95, I believe.
I'm going to give this to you, so I only have one copy, but maybe you can share it, but it's the
Yeah.
the MLS history of it, so those are all the original.
So I do remember in the hearing, I did ask the representative about this. I don't know if he was unaware that it had been listed or not, but the point was made, obviously, that you can list a property, but if it doesn't, until it sells, you don't really have an indication of its market value, which is a fair counterpoint to this point. There's an extensive MLS history on this property where it's been listed, that I'll pass around to where it's at at the 5.9 million. I remember from this one that it was not argued that there was overvaluation. Compared to fair market value. The case here was primarily on the disproportionate assessment, which was the assessment increase compared to other properties. And we were provided a number of properties where the range was was some 100% and change up to 215%. And their assessment increases at the very top of that range. So they saw a big jump in their percent increase. These ones are like we get this argument sometimes, both percent increase and like the disproportionality. So we end up with this kind of pile of data of, again, to me, properties with varying characteristics. So it's really hard for me to pin down what's going on, why one would jump by this much and one would go up by that much. Nothing else was presented on fair market value. In fact, they requested reduction to me to 2.7 million was also just kind of arbitrary. I think the rationale was that it would be bringing it closer to its previous assessment. I'll also say, because it was stated during the hearing, the suggestion was made that there is some bias in play, that the assessment company or the assessor is targeting homeowners that are not from South Kingstown. That was suggested multiple times by the representative. I feel, it was stated gently, but I should maybe give you the opportunity to address that particular point that was reiterated by the applicant, their belief or their suggestion that it's possible that you're targeting out-of-state homeowners.
I'm trying to tread lightly with the comment because I found it, offensive and slightly funny, because the residents are coming from those places and they're buying them. I'm not doing anything arbitrarily, like, oh, you're from here, so therefore I'm just arbitrarily just going to up your assessment. I mean, that's defamation of character to some extent. That's not happening at all. I don't dictate the market. We respond to the market. I look at sales. I don't look at addresses or gender or anything on a spreadsheet when I certify my values.
Yeah, thanks. I like,
Point well taken.
and that, the comment, the comment that was made didn't really relate to their case, but it was stated, and I found it to be, I didn't respond directly to it at the time, but I found it to be fairly incendiary. So I figured it would be fair to you to give you a chance to address that concern, even though it's not really, it's not really relevant to their appeal, but it was stated in a public meeting, so.
I appreciate that. As an assessor, you have to have a very thick skin for perception. I don't live in that world. I live in reality and reasonableness. And to give the attorney, Mr. Carnavale, I'm a very forgiving person. Not that I thought anything of it. It rolled right off my back, but he did compliment our office that we were very responsive, that I was one of the easier assessors to work with, and so I will hang my hat on that.
Yeah, and to give them further benefit of the doubt, the issue may have been raised as a concern over perception of how these things are sorted out, so that it may have been as benign as that.
Thank you.
Yeah, this one's we have a few like this where we have the table of increases. This is a custom home, but to me it's in a bucket of home style that to me is like it fits in custom, so I don't think that we would be looking to change style on this one, because that seems to fit the bill on this one. And I may be out of bounds because they didn't mention style on this one anyway, so I'm getting out of my lane a little bit.
I will note that this neighborhood had the highest increase for their neighborhood adjustment. Well, the second highest, neighborhood 900, you'll see 4.15. The only higher adjustment to that is a Sycamore Cedar, and that was 4.25. And then the second, there's two neighborhoods in the entire town that have that weight. After that 4.15, then there is no one else even in the threes as far as that weight. The second weight came in at 2.40 at the next neighborhood right next to this one, neighborhood 800. So just something to be aware of. You'll see the significant increase based on sales for that particular neighborhood. Hence the large increase for the revo.
And I guess maybe just, it's hard to tether onto something when we've been given a list of assessment comparables and their rates of increase, but do you have any sense of why this one went up 195% relative to some of the other sales, and what's kind of driving that? Is it the neighborhood? Is it the age?
It's the neighborhood and it's the custom style for this particular.
Right, we saw a jump in custom, I see.
Yeah, those are the two. And just to know, you'll see it on the field card there in 2020, there were 2 deeds, sale price was 2.5. They came in through 2 deeds, so I was here for that reval, even though I wasn't the assessor at the time. These weren't qualified sales because of the way those came through, so that wasn't taken into account for that last reval. Just something to be mindful of, but they've got it listed for year-end 24 at 6.499, but like you said, it didn't sell, so what is the market value?
Right.
And just also note the grade is a 10. So you've got the landline, the neighborhood, you've got the custom, and you've got that grade as an excellent. So those are your 3 drivers. The grades don't change from reval to reval. That was always the case. But the custom and the neighborhood adjustment, in addition to that basic land curve, they have a 12% change from the last reval. No other neighborhood had that change. The highest was 4, so there's your increase. I'm just looking at the reval breaks down set. I could talk about this forever, but based on neighborhood, the land neighborhood at 900, there were 2 sales in particular in that neighborhood with appropriate assessment to sale ratio. Yeah, so the average sale price was like 1.3. I'd have to look into those, but there were specifically 2 sales in that neighborhood, in addition to land and sales and all of that.
Yeah, it's tough. I think we find ourselves, it's difficult. Just traditionally, it's hard for us when we're not speaking in terms of fair market value and we're speaking in terms of percent increase. It just gives us a little bit less to cling on to. They don't seem to be appealing that the value. They don't seem to be disagreeing that the value is inaccurate. They're objecting that the value went up by a higher rate than similar properties. That seems to be the basis of this case.
I believe I sent the appellant a comp, which was really tough to find one for this particular neighborhood and this particular style with that grade. But I did find one that was not in that neighborhood. It was in neighborhood 60, but sometimes I'll just look at the building to see if I'm anywhere near. And this one in particular on 182 Torrey Road, similar, it's a custom, it was a 9. I think there aren't many 10s in town. I could count them on one hand. It's a custom 9, and the square footage was 4,467. The exterior is a little different, it's got some brick, but it was the closest I could find. And that being said, that value for that home was 2.741. And the subject at 37 Coast Guard Ave was 2.767. So if we wanted to piece it together, that was sort of how I got there. But it's up to you to decide what you wanted, what you need from here on out.
And that one, so that one sold. That's a qualified sale then for assessment purposes?
Not for the year end 12/31/2025,
Oh, okay.
but it was he had this property in the market, he didn't sell, so I was like, well, what's going on? I need to look to see if there's something, a high-end custom that sold, and I don't know the winning Powerball numbers before they pull them, and this won't be a qualified sale for the next reval, so this one kind of lives in no man's land, but this did sell on June 30th, 2025 for $4.3 million, and we have it assessed currently for year-end 24 at 3.2. So that was sort of where I went with it. You could go somewhere else with it. I know the appellant gave a comp of what he felt was a comp. I think that for me, this But I wasn't in the wrong end of the pool. Wasn't like in the shallow and they were in the deep, so that's where I went with it. If you need more information, we can go from there.
Yeah, that one also had two other structures.
You can see why I didn't use it as a strict comp, but if you wanted to just look at the main building and that structure,
So that gives us an example of a custom grade 9.
that's sold on the market.
That, yeah.
I
right.
I
All
can
right.
go through the 3-4 customs that did sell for the year-end '24, but, you know, that gives you kind of a little bit of a snapshot into maybe what could happen. I mean, hey, the market could tank in a year, we never know, right? But gearing up for the next statistical. When I came in, I just saw such a discrepancy when I was seeing $3-4 million sales, and these assessed values were all at 1.
Right.
So if I didn't have that exercise, this reval, and put my head in the sand, the next reval, the increase would just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the disconnect is smaller, but like you said, you're dealing with the outliers right now.
I also believe Torrey Road property could be subdivided.
It's an 8-acre property, I'm sure. You're not going to divide Coast Guard Ave with their .49 acres.
Oh, no.
Well, I understand, you know, where the applicant or the appellant's coming from here, so. I understand how the assessment got there, and I understand, you know, what's on the spreadsheet right here. So I guess my thought is we have to make some type of an adjustment on this. I think it needs to be lowered. I know we've been talking about how we're gonna go about doing this all morning. You know, and I'm not gonna make another opinion on that, but I think we gotta come up with something. We definitely have to, I think we need to lower just based on the evidence that we've seen with the neighboring properties. So, you know, and quite frankly, I mean, if it's listed for that kind of money, even if they get $1 million less for that, they're still gonna be right about where that assessed value is. So, do I think the assessed value is unrealistic? Not really. Do I think, when I look at the spreadsheet, do I think there's a situation there that needs to be addressed? Yes, I do. So, I'm not sure what else to say at this point.
No,
But, you know, I mean, so my direction is, you know, pretty much what I stated. I think we have to do something with this property as far as lowering the assessment.
Yeah, I could go along. It's harder, I think, to find we don't have a strong basis in terms of what, you know, if we're going to like kind of develop a number.
I could give you a basis. The results of the value, like the average value change for the reval, just a generic median value change was 26% for most residential properties, just to give you a guardrail. That's all I have. Yeah, for most residential properties, you're talking everything, all one big old bucket, 26%. So I could point you in that direction. The average custom increase was 55%. I mean, if you want to start piecing the land increase and the custom, and clearly this subject got all of those. But
Yeah.
you know, the house across the street comparatively to the appellant, I mean, there's your base for an average single-family home that probably sold.
Yeah, so we'll need a calculator then.
So what are you looking at? You're looking at the previous assessed value and multiplying that times 55% or 155%?
Yeah, so I would probably want to keep it in the custom with its like properties. Because those there's a market basis for those increases. And if we applied so the percent increase for the custom category was 55%, you said? So if
The average.
as an average, so if we tried to tether it towards the average, based on the previous assessment, 2,535,700, if we increase that by 55%, that would bring the assessment to 3.93 and change. Which, so it would tether it to the average. It's probably being, the reason for the increase, right, is the age, the quality, the location, why it was skewed towards the upper end. I mean, if you've got an average, somebody's got to be above the average and someone's got to be below the average. So yeah, we would be at 3.93. The question is whether we feel comfortable with the $1 million reduction, based on, to me, the limited evidence provided. I'm amenable to the change. That's kind of wrapping my head around the magnitude of the change that we apply.
I'm taking a look at other properties that appear to be waterfront. Values also in the 4 million plus square footage, number of bedrooms, baths, and so on. In terms of fairness with
Are you looking at the Green Hill Beach Road,
Green Hill Beach,
1054, is that
I'm
right?
looking at Coast Guard Avenue, Green Hill Beach Road. Yeah, Green
Oh.
Hill Avenue.
You're looking at the Exhibit A that was provided in the,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Just, I think I don't know if I wrote it down for y'all, but in the middle of the chart here, actually, no, I apologize, the last one, 350 Charlestown Beach Road, just keep it, that property's in Charlestown. Not that. Yeah. And there was a market sale, I'd like to draw your attention to 1107 Matunic Beach Road. It's right in the middle of the spreadsheet there. They've got the 2023 appraisal at 1.8. This property this is a market sale for the reval. That property sold on August 2nd, 2024 for 3.9. We had it assessed at 3.363900.
I'm just thinking in terms of fairness with other neighbors.
I
As to what
understand.
their appraisals are. Yeah, it doesn't look to me to be completely out of whack from similar properties.
You mean with the potential reduction?
I like your approach on this, Brad. I mean, when you look at what the previous assessment was, and you multiply it times 55% increase based on a custom. type of a build, you know, you're close to 4 million or just under 4. I think that's a reasonable approach to what we're looking at here, I guess is my thought. And I'm not, you know, I don't see how, I guess I don't really, I just question how we could get any lower than that. You know, and I think it's, I mean, it's $1 million less. I mean, it's almost 25% less than what the town's assessed it at. And we've got we've got this place listed for $1 million more than it's assessed at. So, I don't know. I guess that's all I have to say. That's, you know,
Yeah.
I feel that's a good roundabout approach, I guess, to coming up with something that we feel is fair.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I think it kind of gestures in a direction. Yeah, it's hard. So I'm amenable to a change that is in the direction that we're going. It's hard for me because I'm just because of my training. It's hard for me to throw out numbers, but yeah, if we're pointing towards a $4 million. A change to $4 million in that range, I'm amenable to that in light of what was presented.
I also feel it's somewhere in the fours. Now, the appellant's opinion of value was 2.7. I feel that's too low, much too low.
It's absurd on its face, and it's right. I'll leave it at that. That's not a helpful number.
I agree. And you know, and again, I think, you know, just for the record, I mean, I've said this several times, like if you really want to prove what your property's worth, come in with an appraisal. So, and I always carry a lot of weight in my opinions toward what the property appraises at. So, I know we don't have an appraisal here, but we got a list price of, you know, $1 million over what the town assesses it, you know, it at. So, my gut tells me if this was appraised, this would probably come in close to what the assessed value was on the town assessment based on you seeing this listed for $1 million more. So I look at it this way. I think we're being more than fair to consider reducing this approximately $1 million based on what we have in front of us for a comparison. So that being said, I guess, should I continue on and make a motion?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I make a motion that I think what I'll do is, I'm going to make a motion that we decrease the value of this property. What is the, what? Yeah, well, the current number is $4.958,600,000, and I make a recommendation that we reduce it. I'm going to go with, I'm going to say $4 million. I'm going to round it off and call it a $4 million value that we drop it down to, based on what I, previously said for the record. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussion or any more discussion?
Would that be due to evidence provided?
I'm sorry.
Yes, I would like to, basically, yeah, well, Exhibit A, I'd like to just include Exhibit A as a comparison to the valuation, the reevaluation of all the properties that are similar to this property. Based on that, that's why I'm decreasing this to the $4 million value, even though I feel if it was appraised, it would be substantially more than that.
Do I need a second? I can second that again.
Okay, we have a second. Do we have any other discussion?
No, I think maybe to clarify that this is like, for us, we're attempting to try to address a greater than average assessment increase, which was the basis of their appeal. I think we typically have a pretty high bar for making changes of this magnitude without an appraisal, but I mean, they came before us, they presented the evidence, and we have some indication of a disproportionately high increase relative to other similar properties. So I can support it with those reservations for future decision making. So reiterate my second.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiments exactly, Brad. So, okay, we have any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is number 60.
Just got to locate it in the files. It's good. It feels good to make headway on the decision making, at least. I'll just say so.
You're doing awesome. We
We're
have
kind of grinding through it.
Three
This
more
is-
left.
It was a good idea because these all required a fair amount of discussion. So
Just a point, it's just a point on the time here. It's 12:20, so just letting I'm sure everybody realizes what time it is. Do we have any time limit on this room today,
I'm
Wendy?
actually looking at the room right now. You read my mind. Let me confirm, because I believe there is some type of special session in this room at 12:30. Yeah, can you?
whatever
I
they're
don't
doing.
think they can do that, because I booked the room till 1, like, excuse me.
Yeah, no. Let's push it. If we can, we've got 3 left.
I have the room booked
I'm
till
willing-
1. Somebody went in there and tried to bump me out, so as far as I'm concerned,
No, we take.
we need the room
people
till
that,
1.
People that have
I
waited
don't
for
know
months for
why
decisions, so
that-
let's push through. And I actually can stay
No
a little bit
respect,
later.
no
I can stay
respect.
till 1, just in the interest of
I wouldn't
seeing us
rush. We
make
have the room till
progress.
1. Somebody came in after and tried to get in at 12:30.
Yeah. I'd like to try to wrap this up.
See what we can do.
You could
Yeah.
do that, Alice, okay. All right. So let's say we have another similar scenario here with number 60.
60 and 88, just to give you a little light at the end of the tunnel, those are both customs, and 90 is a private road issue or something.
Yeah, on this one, once again, right, we see the impact of the custom classification, I think, as kind of one of the underlying reasons for the magnitude of the increase.
This is another custom 10. We
Also-
don't have many, and they're all in front of you this season.
It's a custom 10. It was also under construction during the period, so, it may be that the percent increase is skewed because the previous assessment reflected partial construction, and the new assessment reflects the completed construction. Is that right? Am I?
No, you're spot on.
Okay.
Well, the effective year built was 2022, and I believe there was a change to the grade. We had it at a 7 before there was an interior, and I'm not going to speak for my deputy, but I know for a fact she went out there with the deputy building official just to go ahead and look at the quality of the materials, and that's where the 10 came from.
Yeah, so this, unlike the property.
I've been there too.
Yeah, unlike the property at Winchester, or Aquagna Winchester property, this doesn't look like a misclassification to me. This looks like it's appropriately classified per the definition of custom. acknowledging some of the questions that brings into the conversation, but I think if there is a custom, like this fits okay in that bucket. The basis, just to kind of repeat the basis of the appeal briefly, I mean, it's a similar argument as the previous. It's the percent increase relative to other properties. It's difficult, as I mentioned in this case, because the percent increase on this property, it's stated at 263%, 264%, but I believe that is in part because of the partial construction. This case, unlike the previous one, also attempts to make the case of overvaluation, so they are kind of trying to complicate from a market value perspective. So we do have kind of two legs of the stool in this case. In addition to some, I mean, there may have been other minor issues that were raised during our discussions with the property owner and their representative. Their overvaluation in this case was based on one comparable sale that they brought to our attention. That is 839C Ministerial Road, that we kind of went into a little bit at the last meeting. This is, I mean, so it is, there's kind of a market basis for this conversation, as well as a percent increase basis for this conversation. No appraisal was provided. In this case, similar to the last one, if an appraisal was presented, it's not outside of the realm of what's realistic that the assessed value might be supported by an appraisal. We don't know. We don't have an appraisal. We have had, earlier in this appeal cycle, we had another property owner come to us with one market sale. If you remember, they tried to point to a market sale of a similar property, and it was, again, unaccompanied by analysis or, appraisal opinion or anything. It was just kind of an isolated data point.
I believe I have that comp if you want me to pull it up, if you're interested.
Yeah,
I believe it was 839C Ministerial Road.
That's right. I mean, the issue, this is what you want an appraisal for, to kind of analyze this comp. This is an older building, so that is like one reason why the assessment's different, is because it's been depreciated. I don't want to ignore it, but it's hard because if we're in the position of kind of trying to analyze the sale, like we're doing, we're trying to do an appraisal on the fly based on one data point, when most appraisals would require a few data points. But again, I don't want to ignore it. I just want to place it in context. So it's kind of my read. A little harder on the assessment increase ratio, just because the previous assessment is not quite apples to apples, if I'm understanding the property correctly, because it was partially constructed. So that makes our job a little harder.
Sale that we have was 839C.
That was the sale that the appellant provided. I will bring that up on the computer. Just give me a moment.
That one appears to have 17 acres, as opposed to the
Correct.
appellant's property that has a little over 1.5, or 2.
Yep,
Two
so
acres.
here's the, let me actually pull it up in GIS too. So this is the subject property here? Okay. Different map. This is map 67, lot 36. So we're jumping across the pond. All right, so there's the location of the comp. And then here is the field card. So list price in 2024 was 2.695. It sold,
2.4, I believe.
it sold for 2.4 on February 26th of 2025, so it's not, even though it was on the market in 24, it didn't sell till 25. A little bit of a future snapshot to some degree, like we've spoken about. So the
It's
total,
relevant, yeah.
yeah, I
find
mean,
relevant.
it gives you a little bit of like down the road looky, possibly. The total appraised parcel value is 2.771. You can see the condition factor here because it's the marshland. It's got some reduction for pond and marsh and topo, but the condition factor is 2.0 for the entire acreage. There's no reduction on like the residual acres. This is a really good example of scales, right? So there's your first acre there at 565, and like why people get confused as to why the remainder man or the 16.6 acres would be valued at 2.5, but that first acre is really the prime driver of the value on the land.
Exactly. That's the same point we made earlier in
You'll
a
see
couple
that all-
cases.
yeah.
That first acre has the most value.
Now, the difference I see isn't the custom, it's the grade here. This is a good, and the year built was 1990. So as far as the style and the look, you definitely have some type of a bridge. I'd even be, I could even go into that card and say, what would that be if it was a 10, if you wanted me to reverse, for comparative, but this is what the applicant provided as a comp. And there is a second card there. It looks like there's a custom nothing. What is that? I'm going to have to go into another card. Bear with me and see what's on there.
So if we went into this one, so that's been depreciated 34% because it's older.
Yeah, no improvement since the year of construction, or at least that we know of.
I believe there is evidence that it has been more recently renovated. I don't know if that's on the field card or on the listing, but there may be some evidence that we're looking at this one now. I'm like wondering if this one should be a higher grade and the depreciation should be lower, but like.
I don't believe there should be a second card. We've had some glitches with this software, so I apologize. So I would
That's
just
okay.
ignore that second card.
But if we looked at this one as like undepreciated, like as a base cost, what that would tell us really is just the difference between a grade 6 and a grade 10, right? I mean, that's all it would really do for us.
Right now, 839C ministerial at a grade 6 custom is assessed at 2.771. If this were a 10, it would go to 3.7 even with the 1990 year construction. Once I change that, it's going to probably be higher than the subject. Does that help, Brad? If I change it from
I mean-
6 to a 10, that's the increase.
We're kind of just duplicating, yeah.
I can change the UIB.
It's worth examining.
All right, so if that were a
The
10.
change from 6 to 10 is exactly what happened to the subject, really. Part of the explanation for the percent increase is that it was viewed by Jennifer, I think?
Yes, and the
And-
deputy building official, they both.
And the rating changed from
Yeah,
6 to 10.
from a 7 to a 10.
7 to a 10, okay. So
Without looking inside, was a 7 all day. I was there when it was a 7. It was maybe not even 30% or 40%
So
done
for the
at
board,
that point.
yeah.
So then as you start to get to your, end game there, 85%, and we're doing more field visits, that's where things change while things are under construction, and that's where we landed at that 10.
So based on your viewing of the property, this is then, if it's because it falls in the custom and because it's a grade 10, it's your opinion, this is then at the top of the scale in terms of what's built in South Kingstown.
It was probably the nicest home I've seen in South Kingstown. It's a beautiful, beautiful, well-constructed property. You're lucky. It's beautiful. It is. Yeah, we don't assess bedrooms. That doesn't fall into, unfortunately.
And the reason just to kind of
values.
like go down this road is like, it does like, the questions raised about like, what can we do? Similar to the last property, we don't have an easy tool to make a reduction based on grade, style, condition. So the question, I mean, this is just for the board, like, what weight can we place on this one sale, and is there something compelling in the assessment comparables presented, which had increased? I mean, their percent increases there in the data that was provided go from 16% to 71%, which seems consistent with the average of 55% that was presented by the assessor earlier today. A little harder because we don't have a good assessment base because the property was under construction previously. So maybe if I mean, I don't know our appetite for a change on this one, but it might be, rather than building off of the previous assessment, we might have to go at it another way if we want to entertain a change on this one.
I'm looking at the 839C that did sell. It sold at,
It did. It sold in 2025, February 26, 2025, so 2 months after the reval sales, and this sold for 2.4.
and it was a multiple offer because it was on the market
It was
for
on. It was listed for 2.65. I
2.35.
do have the MLS here. Is it in your
I'm
packets
looking
as
at,
well?
uh,
Oh,
at the
okay.
MLS. It was listed for $2,350,000, and it sold for $2,400,000. So it sold $50,000 over asking,
Correct.
and it sold quickly.
Yeah, if we had an appraisal, I mean, it may be if there was an appraisal, that would be one data point that would be looked at as a sale, even though it's after the date of assessment, right? But to me, it's like it's some touchstone for us in market value.
And it was built in 1990, so there's an age factor to it.
That would be, and an appraiser would adjust for that, and like a condition adjustment.
If they upgrade that, they'll be back. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, based on what's in the listing, you might want to look at it again, actually.
That Ministerial Road one was also about 6,000 square feet. Three fireplaces.
Yeah, so obviously what's driving the difference in the subject is it's new, it's custom, and it's a 10 grade. It's like, that's kind of the bottom line. Like if we find the magnitude of increase to be something that we want to look at and remedy, we're kind of left on a similar basis to the we don't have any easy basis. I believe that we were requested to reduce it down to 1.7 million, similar to the last appeal. That probably intends to tether it back to the previous assessment right. I'm not going to pretend that the $1.7 million is like a helpful number for me either.
I agree.
I'm not
That would
sure
be a
why I never
$3 million
noticed this.
reduction in assessment. It's, that's hard because I'm trying to be fair, but that's hard. So we can kind of, we can reject it. We can look at the percent increase and try to moderate that. And kind of pull a number out of it. Basis, I don't know. There's some discussion of the functional utility, like the half stories were referenced in the presentation, which I remember. But those seem to be, like, when you do half stories in the assessment, they don't get credit for the full square footage of a half story. So I don't know if that also may be a dead end to look at, I look at functional utility.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm looking at this, trying to come up with a way or some type of mathematical formula to reduce this, I guess, and I'm not sure what it is. Because I like to at least have I like to use math as a basis to be able to, I know we're kind of pulling numbers out of the air here, or, percentages. Well, not really. So I guess I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to go about doing this. And I think the way to look at it is we got to take the number that we have as what's on the assessment card here, and then figure out,
Defend it downward.
yeah, how you gonna defend it to reduce the assessment? And I'm not sure, I don't have anything in the front of my brain right now, I guess.
Yeah. I'm also thinking ahead to the next meetings, where we have, I think, a number of properties that are coming to us that are in the custom bucket. And I don't want to set us up where we're going to take every $3 million, $4 million, $5 million home and reduce each one by millions of dollars without any kind of tethering to market value, without any appraisal. I just would caution us to go down the slippery slope here, while still acknowledging that for the people in the custom bucket, there was a higher than, we know that there's a 55% on average, and then some people within that bucket, it was even higher. Like we can acknowledge and be sensitive to that.
Yeah.
In fairness.
Yeah, that's point well.
We're in a stronger place when we have a good basis.
Yeah, we could defend, I feel, $1 million.
Knowing that
yeah.
we might have a dozen or two coming before us, and yeah. So, I'm not saying one way or another, I'm just kind of like trying to scaffold the decision making.
Well, I guess I'm just looking at this, I'm back to this spreadsheet that we're looking at here. I guess I'm looking at what the cost per square foot is. So if we wanted to tackle this with some type of mathematical approach and say, okay, the square foot per, the cost per square foot, maybe we go about looking at that and reducing that to come up with an assessment that we feel is more appropriate.
Yeah, that would, right, so the building assessment's approaching $900 a square foot.
Correct.
You might have some sense of, is that unreasonable? The other properties that they presented in their bucket are, significantly lower on a per square foot basis, but I'm guessing not all of these may not all be custom, they may not all be 10 grade. So, yeah, take a look at that. It's $883 a square foot, and I agree that would be a good place to see what we can do. The other way to do it, what we can't really do, the way to really tackle that would be to change the grade or the style, which we can't do. So I think this is just a mathematical exercise.
Yeah, I'm looking at the square footage right now, Brad. We got 4,772 square feet. I mean, if we reduce it by, $200 a square foot down to 600, well, right now it's close to 900. So say we go 4,772 times, call it $700 a square foot. That puts us down to 3.3, a little over 3.3 million.
Building.
And then you
On
have
the building,
the
yeah.
additional, the 422,000 land value. So yeah, I mean, we're at somewhere in the upper threes, which is kind of similar to the last one. It's a 25% reduction. Roughly, somewhere on the magnitude of $1 million, 20% reduction.
Yeah.
That feels better, feels right. Ministerial Road and
Just time check, it's 12:43. We must be out of this room. Decisions, like, out of here by 1. There is a probate special session,
Okay.
just heads up.
Do you think they could push back by a half? I'm just joking. Sorry.
Since I tried to get
It's hard
in
to
at
make jokes at
12:30, I'm
3
going to
hours
say
after the meeting
no.
starts.
We love being here.
Yeah, I mean, if we just kind of target like a $4 million, would that, does that get us to a place of comfort? It's a little bit more than, I mean, there's another property that's assessed at 4.7, there's one at 3.7, but most of them are below that 3.7. We can kind of like array this one, either upper threes, 4, low 4s.
I'm okay. I don't really, again, I'd be okay to reduce the valuation to around, the high, like 3.9 or 4 million, in that range.
I'm in agreement. Need a motion?
Yeah, we have a consensus, so yeah, go ahead. If you want to, yeah, I'm open to motions.
You want to make a motion, Alice? Or Brad?
I'm not sure what you're looking for in the motion.
Just a number.
The number, yeah, we come up, if you want to make a motion, I guess the first thing to do is put a number on the table, and then we can make sure that we've got everything covered once we establish a number.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make-
Go ahead. I feel like I filibuster too much, but yeah, I'll defer to you,
I
Alice.
make a motion that for appellant number 60, was it? We reduce the assessment to the low 4s or high 3s, based on the per square value of the building.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We just need, do we have a second?
I would second it, but I feel like I need a,
Yeah, we can
like
have
a-
discussion, yeah.
like a
Definitely
whole,
going to need a directive
We
on
need
the
a whole
precise
number.
Yeah.
number. So I've got
Yeah.
a half motion right now,
Yeah.
Alice,
do you just want to say a whole?
per square foot value.
Just
for
say a whole
comps.
round number, and we can then
Yeah.
discuss if we want to,
Okay. And 4 million.
4 million?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to reduce the property value from applicant, was it applicant number 60, right? From 4.636900 down to 4 million. And this is discussion, is it, so, all right, so we have a motion on the floor, it's been seconded, we're talking about this. Is there any other discussion? I guess the only point I want to make is how are we, what's our justification for this?
Per square foot value based on
yeah, right.
comps.
We've reviewed the per square foot value, and I think that the kind of the underlying rationale for taking a closer look at that is just comparing the magnitude of assessment increase, which is the basis of the appeal. So this acknowledges, these are comments, not a motion, but
Yeah.
this is just commentary. it acknowledges what was brought to our attention about the magnitude of assessment increase being above the average, and attempts to, apply some kind of remedy to acknowledge that there was a large jump that was larger than average. So I think that, the basis is a look at the price per square foot compared to other comparables. And the underlying rationale is there's this disproportionality of assessment increase.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the, we got to be out of here in about 5 minutes, right? Because they got to come in here. We got to pick up.
Well, I mean, we could go, I think 88 is going to...
If you could give, I think
We can
90
pick
is
90
quick.
off nicely.
All right,
Maybe we just try to get 90 out of the way, and if we punt on one, we're still in a much better place with the decision-making.
This is true.
Okay. So we're going to, all right, so it's the board's preference that we move down to appeal number 90.
In the interest of time, maybe we just,
Yeah.
if I can just be so bold as to, we'll just continue 88. I think that'll be a
All
pretty
right.
quick decision, but it's just a little bit more in-depth, but...
Did you want to make a motion?
Yeah,
for
So I will make a
88?
motion to
Okay.
continue 88 to the March 10th meeting.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Do we have any discussion? To move 88 to the next meeting. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. The next one on the item, our next item on the agenda is number 90.
Number 90, the basis of this, it really was, it centers on, I mean, in addition to, this kind of a general argument we get sometimes about how they get no services from the quote unquote, I'm quoting them, get no services from the town. But the real crux of this case is the road issue. This kind of wades into this issue with a change in how the town is handling roads like this that were previously, I guess, cared for by the town and now are no longer cared for by the town. The question I asked with this, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this in the future. The question I asked at the time of the hearing was whether is there any market evidence that this changeover in these neighborhoods, or in this neighborhood in particular, has there been a market impact or a market reaction when these homes are tried to sell? And they didn't have any sale evidence other than there was one listing that had been on the market. But I think that's kind of what I would be looking for to understand how this is affecting the values in this neighborhood.
It does make it more difficult for obtaining a mortgage. So if your qualified buyers would be reduced.
Point well taken. Alice, you would be no more than I would about this, but, maintaining a road is certainly going to be a private expense amongst whoever's on the road. So I can see that being a valid point. I guess really what it comes down to is, what's that cost per year? And I think there were, 4 or 5 other people on this road here, or residents?
It's about no more than 8, maybe 5. But they were not all in agreement to sharing costs,
Yeah.
which was the problem. And you have to have some sort of an agreement of those that front on that road as far as the mortgage.
Oh, the private road with the town? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of looking at it's a situation in flux.
The town, just to let you know, the town's hat that we're wearing on this one, because it is still a pending litigation, we're not gonna touch it. I could talk about, there are single-family homes that sold in that neighborhood and the next neighborhood that had private roads. I have one on Seacrest that's assessed at 3, it sold for 3.9. I mean, we could go down that road if you needed evidence, but that was about all I have.
It came up in the hearing, but we previously applied a change. We reduced it in 2022 on the basis of road condition, I believe. It was stated, the only other, it's not, just looking through their application, they mention the site has wetland impacts. Looks like it is accounted for in the field card. PF, wet, topo. Also, just mentions the condition of the property. Built in 74, only has 120 amp wiring, only one exit from the home, one bath is original from 1974. And they just state that upgrading the house would be costly. And those are the issues, so those are...
I would stick to the merits of the original appeal. This has been kind of a thing this season where midway, people are submitting
They're
more
sending extra.
documentation for like, oh, and this, and oh, this. It might have merit, but it might be file a new appeal this year for that merit, just a reminder.
There's people poking their heads in here right now, just as an FYI. I guess
I
my
thought
feel-
this would be quicker than it is.
Oh, maybe we'll have to abandon this.
Yeah.
I don't know, what's,
Yeah.
I think we have to call the meeting.
To you.
I would just make a motion to, in light of the time, to continue this to the next meeting in March.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Oh, Alice seconded it.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Meeting has been adjourned.
12:54.